Audio Jungle.
Tonight, the Northeast digging out from the blizzard of 2022. More than 2.5 feet of snow in some areas. Houses today completely frozen. Streets that were flooded by the storm turning to ice. Tens of thousands without power just as temperatures plummet. And the record lows go as far south as Florida, where frozen iguanas are falling from trees.
He fell right out the tree. And now he's trying to warm up.
A steep decline in COVID cases nationwide, dropping by nearly half in some major cities this past week alone. The former CDC director saying it's the most optimistic he's felt in years.
I do think that we're heading into a much better time because of that.
The Supreme Court short list getting longer. The White House said to be considering more than a dozen women for the highest court, as former President Trump suggests he'll pardon the January 6th defendants if he's reelected. Spotify's CEO speaking out how the company plans to combat COVID misinformation amid growing pressure from the stars it works with to pull Joe Rogan off the platform. Dr. Johnny Fever signs off. We remember the actor Howard Hesseman from WKRP in Cincinnati.
This is NBC Nightly News with Kate Snow.
Good evening. It is a frozen landscape across 9 states tonight. At least a foot of snow fell from Maryland to Maine. Just look at what they woke up to this morning in Brant Rock, Massachusetts, south of Boston. Those ice-encrusted homes after blowing snow and winds over 50 miles an hour. The biggest snow total this weekend was also in Massachusetts, more than 30 inches in Stoughton. Almost that much on New York's Long Island and parts of the Jersey Shore. At least 4 people were killed by this storm. And up and down the East Coast, frigid temperatures, 10 to 15 degrees below average. Even parts of Florida were below freezing. Kathy Park starts us off from Boston.
Tonight, millions in the Northeast digging out from a dangerous blast of winter weather. Blizzard conditions stretch from the mid-Atlantic to Maine and buried parts of Massachusetts with more than 2 feet of snow.
It's pretty bad. It's not too heavy, but it's a lot.
Boston tying a record for the highest snow total in one day with 23.6 inches. Powerful winds and high waves flooded coastal towns, knocking out power and heat to tens of thousands, just as temperatures dropped 10 to 20 degrees below average. This was Nantucket Saturday, underwater. And today?
This is Jason Graziade with Nantucket Current. Most of those floodwaters have receded from the streets. There's still some that are iced over and flooded.
And after a beating from giant waves, a layer of ice coated these homes along the shore. The snow didn't let up in New York, paralyzing travel, tractor trailers overturned. Long Island hit especially hard. Officials confirming an elderly man died after falling into an icy pool as he was shoveling snow. As the Arctic air settles in, the Sunshine State is shivering too. This morning, Tallahassee reached just 19 degrees, the first time in a decade. And Floridians are trying to warm up with extra layers. And with lows in the 20s, a rare sight for locals, frozen iguanas.
He fell right out the tree, and now he's trying to warm up.
Luckily, warmer temperatures are on the way, and the reptiles will spring back to life.
And Kathy joins us live from Boston now. How's the cleanup going up there?
Well, Kate, as you can see, a lot of the roads here in Boston are clear and passable, but by tomorrow morning, some drivers may have a tough time getting to their buried cars, and with temperatures plunging into the single digits overnight, a lot of the snow might freeze over. Kate?
All right, Kathy, I can hear the cold in your mouth. Thank you so much. Now to some encouraging, perhaps even very encouraging news about COVID. Nationwide, cases are dropping, down by 1/3 in the past 2 weeks. And look at this. In 2 of the cities hit first by Omicron, New York City and Washington, D.C., you can see how quickly the numbers spiked and how quickly they dropped in the past few weeks. And that is making a huge difference for some hospitals that were, up until very recently, overwhelmed. Blaine Alexander has more.
At the Cleveland Clinic ICU, the load was crushing. As one bed emptied, there was another patient right there to fill it. The National Guard and Air Force called in to help. Now, a different story. Across Cleveland Clinic's Ohio hospitals, the number of COVID patients has dropped from 1,200 to 393 in less than a month.
It's a significant relief right now.
Starting next week, elective procedures are back. The National Guard has moved out.
Overall, doctor, do you think the worst is now behind you?
I think so. I hope so. I hope we don't see another variant. And we'll remain optimistic.
It's a reflection of the encouraging numbers nationwide. A drop in new cases and hospitalizations down nearly 14%. But deaths, which lag behind, continue to rise in some places, with 31 states seeing an increase over the past 14 days.
The numbers tell us that we are likely looking at the rear view of the worst part of the surge. Still to be determined is, do we see another rebound with an increase in cases?
It comes as some places are dropping masks and restrictions. In Denver, the city's indoor mask mandate is set to expire this week. And in Orange County, Florida, the nation's 9th largest school district says starting this week, COVID concerns can no longer be used as an excuse for missing school. Tonight, experts are still cautious, but encouraged.
I'm more optimistic today than I have been at any point since the pandemic emerged. We have better tools, better defenses, better information, and better ability to make sure that COVID doesn't dominate our lives. We have the best chance to get and keep the upper hand against this virus.
And Blaine joins us now from the CDC. So, Blaine, there is this good news overall, but some parts of the country still seeing cases rise.
Yeah, Kate, that's right. In fact, 20 states have seen some sort of an increase over the past 14 days, mostly states out west, with Montana being the highest at an 86% increase. Kate.
All right, Blaine Alexander, thank you. The list of possible contenders for President Biden's Supreme Court pick is growing longer. The president has vowed to choose a black woman to fill Justice Stephen Breyer's seat. And today, at least one Republican signaled support for one judge in contention. Josh Letterman is at the White House.
Tonight, the Supreme Court guessing game in high gear. Who will President Biden pick to fulfill his historic pledge?
It's long overdue in my view.
And will any Republicans back her? One Republican opening the door to getting his vote, lavishing praise on one of the president's candidates.
I can't think of a better person for President Biden to consider for the Supreme Court than Michelle Childs.
She's a federal judge in South Carolina, already nominated for the D.C. Appeals Court. But Mr. Biden is casting a wide net. A source telling NBC News tonight his list of candidates has grown to more than a dozen. Democrats looking to move quickly, but not so quickly that Republicans can say it was rushed.
It's going to be fair. It's going to be deliberate.
But a new ABC News Ipsos poll finds 3 in 4 Americans want the president to consider all options, not just black women. Some Republicans now questioning Mr. Biden's race and gender litmus test.
It adds to the further perception that the court is a political institution.
Collins and Graham among 3 Republicans who voted previously for another candidate on Mr. Biden's list. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson confirmed last year to the D.C. Circuit. Those Republicans now the focus of Democrats' hopes that the vote to confirm the court's first black woman will be bipartisan.
I don't see Michelle Childs as an act of affirmative action. I do see putting a black woman on the court, making the court more like America.
And Josh is with us. So former President Trump held a rally in Texas last night, and he made some news there.
That's right. He told supporters that if he runs for president again and wins, Mr. Trump might give pardons to those who were criminally charged in the January 6th attacks. The former president insisting that the protesters are being treated unfairly. Kate?
All right. Thank you, Josh. We have some breaking news about the audio streaming service Spotify. Late today, the company's CEO spoke out about how they will address COVID misinformation on their platform. Spotify is under fire for hosting the controversial Joe Rogan podcast. Some major stars even pulling their music. Guad Venegas has late details.
Tonight, the pressure building on Spotify, their CEO now speaking out. It is important to me that we don't take on the position of being content censor while also making sure that there are rules in place and consequences for those who violate them. For days now, music artists have been ramping up pressure, accusing the technology giant of giving a large platform to Joe Rogan, who often has guests on his podcast who question accepted COVID science.
Rogan's has gotten in trouble many, many times before, and they tend to blow over.
Music legend Neil Young protesting the podcast and asking for his music to be pulled from Spotify. Joni Mitchell threatening to do the same. Today, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle joining the list of celebrities calling on Spotify to address COVID misinformation. The couple has an exclusive multi-year podcast deal with the company. Spotify says they are working in part to add content advisory to any podcast episode that includes a discussion about COVID-19, in addition to an information hub with verified data-driven facts about the virus.
So it's trying to walk this very fine line where it wants to communicate that it's taking misinformation seriously and that it's going to create a platform that is safe for people, but it's not going to punish its biggest star.
Spotify now waiting to see if the actions taken will be enough. Guad Venegas, NBC News.
Still ahead tonight, the extreme measures in Beijing to keep the Olympic Games safe during COVID. Workers in hazmat suits, even robot waiters. We are just 5 days away from the start of the Winter Olympics, and tonight we're getting a closer look at the extreme COVID precautions put in place. We're talking about workers in hazmat suits and robot waiters. Yes, robot waiters. Raf Sanchez reports.
With the Olympics just days away, athletes arriving in Beijing under the shadow of COVID. At least 39 competitors and team officials now testing positive. Among them, Polish skating star and medal hopeful Natalia Malashevska. While some Team USA athletes reach Beijing this weekend, others hit with COVID before even leaving the States. Bobsledder Josh Williamson announcing he tested positive on Instagram, writing, "This has not been an easy pill to swallow." The U.S. Olympic Committee says it's still very hopeful that the entire team will be healthy and able to compete in Beijing.
I think the single most important thing to remember as all these athletes go into these games is that you must control what you can and then disregard what you cannot.
Beijing on high alert ahead of the games under a strict zero COVID policy. Overnight, locking down several residential neighborhoods after 2 more cases were detected. Athletes and journalists alike subjected to intense testing on arrival, as NBC's Steve Patterson found out.
We're going to need to get through this. Immediately you see some of the hazmat suits up there.
A ghostly welcome to these strangest of games. Inside the closed loop of the Olympic Village, a look at some high-tech additions. Cafeteria workers are out, and robot cooks and servers are in. So don't expect any long chats with the bartender as he mixes your martini. And in a first for Winter Games, almost all the snow is man-made, raising questions about safety and the environmental impact. An unprecedented Olympics for an unprecedented time. Raf Sanchez, NBC News.
Up next, the controversial new effort to hold police officers accountable even after cases have already been closed. And remembering TV's coolest DJ, sitcom legend Howard Hesseman.
I'm living on the air in Cincinnati. Cincinnati, WKRP.
Tonight, we're remembering the TV star who brought radio to life.
You got Johnny. Dr. Johnny Fever, and I am burning up in here. What?
Actor Howard Hesseman has died. The Emmy Award nominee played the wild DJ on the hit show WKRP in Cincinnati from 1978 to 1982. He later starred in Head of the Class and played many roles in movies. Hesseman was 81 years old. Now to a controversial new effort to hold police accountable for past misconduct, including deadly use of force. In some cases, previous prosecutors decided not to pursue charges, but a new crop of prosecutors are essentially reopening the cases. Ron Allen reports, and a warning, some of the video may be disturbing.
This police video shows the arrest of 40-year-old Javier Ambler in Austin, Texas, after a 22-minute chase in March of 2019. Sheriff's deputies from nearby Williamson County had tried to pull the driver over for failing to dim his headlights for oncoming traffic. Ambler later died at a hospital, and for years, investigators did not find any wrongdoing by police. Devastating Ambler's family.
I've cried a lot. I have cried a lot. I love my son.
Nearly 2 years later, things began to change. A new prosecutor took over the case.
You are pushing hard at the system.
Absolutely.
And you're going to continue to do that.
Absolutely.
Jose Garza is among a number of so-called progressive prosecutors, many newly elected, promising criminal justice reform. An advocacy group counts as many as 70 in the country, many taking a new look at past allegations of police misconduct, even reaching back decades. In Los Angeles, the county DA formed a committee to review hundreds of officer-involved shootings since 2012. Unlike his predecessor, Garza presented the Ambler case to a grand jury. It indicted 2 sheriff's deputies for manslaughter. In a statement at the time, their attorney said Ambler's physical exertion in resisting arrest no doubt contributed to his medical emergency, and the deputies are neither morally or legally responsible for his death. Grand juries handed down 11 indictments against law enforcement officers in Garza's first year in office.
We present every case where a law enforcement officer shoots or kills someone to a grand jury. I believe that the people should decide.
The police union in Austin is furious with Garza.
You've said that you think he's targeting police officers?
Absolutely. We've had circumstances with him where our last district attorney reviewed cases and said there's nothing here, but he sees something and somehow convinces a grand jury to take it forward.
Ken Cassidy says Garza has demoralized the department and that his reforms contribute to a spike in violent crime. Austin's homicide rate, like in numerous cities, soared to record highs last year.
Do you worry about the pushback from the police department?
No, I don't. At the end of the day, our community gets to decide what kind of criminal justice system they have.
Meanwhile, the Ambler family, approaching 3 years in March since their son's death, remains unsure whether the criminal indictments truly are a step forward.
Do you think there will be a trial and accountability?
I hope so. Do I really think? It's like a coin flip.
A family hoping a prosecutor with a new perspective finally brings them justice. Ron Allen, NBC News, Austin.
When we come back, the emotional surprise at a hit Broadway show. There's good news tonight about finally achieving a dream and having that moment celebrated by the people you love. It was a moment that stole the show.
We all remember when the lights went out on Broadway, we were mourning and finding things to do. Emily decided to do something important. She went back to school and finished her college degree.
A mysterious announcement after the curtain call for the Broadway musical Come From Away.
You want to do a real graduation?
And a total surprise for one of the stars, 34-year-old actress Emily Walton. Those tears of joy as everyone celebrated the new college graduate.
Can you describe what it felt like in that moment?
It felt completely overwhelming.
14 years ago, Emily left college to pursue acting.
Did you think, like, someday I have to go back?
I always had my eye on that prize. I just didn't know when.
In 2018, she landed the role of a lifetime in Come From Away, the tale of a small town in Newfoundland, Canada, that took in air passengers rerouted there when U.S. airspace shut down after the 9/11 attacks.
I think at its root, it's about basic human kindness.
Welcome to the land where we lost our love.
Emily says the show changed her. She felt supported by her castmates. And so when COVID shut Broadway down, she had the confidence to go back to school online.
To have been doing this thing for the last couple of years, privately, literally living in my parents' basement for a year of the pandemic, it was just this quiet, personal thing that I was doing.
But last weekend, her castmates wanted to celebrate her milestone in a big public way. They invited the president of Southern New Hampshire University to present her diploma and a cap and gown.
Then the tears just started to come down. It was just a triumphant moment. It was an emotional moment.
There are themes in the show about caring, kindness, generosity.
It's not a coincidence that that happened on that stage with those people. We all are so happy to celebrate each other.
What would you say to people who might be thinking of completing something they've always dreamed of finishing?
Just start slowly chipping away at it, and it might take years, but the feeling you'll get when you've accomplished it is unlike anything else.
I confess to Emily that I am a super fan of that show. If you can't make it to Broadway, you can stream it. Emily earned her degree in psychology, but she has no plans to leave acting anytime soon. I'm Kate Snow. For all of us here at NBC News, stay safe and have a great night.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.
From the heart of where innovation, money, and power collide, in Silicon Valley and beyond, this is Bloomberg Technology with Emily Chang.
I'm Caroline Hyde in New York, in for Emily Chang. This is Bloomberg Technology coming up in the next hour. Apple soaring on results that sail past Wall Street estimates. This is the NASDAQ 100, managed to jump 3% to end the week. Still set for its worst month since 2008. Plus, 1 year on is the meme stock phenomenon that put Robinhood in the hot seat fizzling out. We'll talk about the future of the retail trader and more. And trademark infringement versus the First Amendment. It's the first big battle over NFTs. How the case involving Hermes bags could set a new precedent. We'll get to that in a moment. We also want to be bringing you some breaking tech news. This all regarding HPE. Of course, Mike Lynch, UK tech tycoon, UK government approving the extradition of Mike Lynch to the United States to face some criminal fraud charges. That's after we just hours ago heard the London judge ruling that the tech tycoon was dishonest in that $11 billion sale of his company to Hewlett-Packard Enterprises. We'll get much more on that in a moment. But now let's go back to the markets, because we ended Friday on a positive footing. Tech leading the charge. Bloomberg's Ed Ludlow walking through an extraordinary week.
An extraordinary week, a volatile week. Don't worry, Caroline, we can breathe a sigh of relief. It's Friday. The NASDAQ 100, very tech-heavy index, up more than 3%, as you said. Biggest jump since March of 2021. Not quite as impressive as the S&P 500, which had a really strong day, best since June of 2020, of course. But you look at how mega caps perform. The NYSE FANG Plus index up also 3%. Apple, a massive part of that. The only stock in that group not to make a gain was Netflix, down 0.6%. And semiconductors getting in on the act. Semiconductors performed so poorly relative to the rest of the subsectors within technology so far this year. And Bloomberg Galaxy Crypto Index also getting in on the act, its biggest jump since November. So it's a really positive way to end the week, Caroline. I'm not trying to upset you. I'm not trying to bring the mood down, but come with me into my Bloomberg terminal, because you mentioned this in the intro. Let's think big picture here. The NASDAQ 100 is on track for its worst month since 2008, the financial crisis. I was a little bit younger then, but that chart says it all, doesn't it? You know, what we're dealing with at the start of 2022. It's the outlook for rates and those high multiple stretch valuation tech stocks, particularly in the software sector, that we're worried about. The question, I guess, is, was Apple's big print for the fiscal first quarter, period ending December, enough to turn the tide? Well, this is Apple, right, over the last 5 days. You look at that jump, and the superlatives are amazing. This is the biggest jump for Apple in some time, but it's the biggest post-earnings jump since July of 2020, when they posted their print for the period ending in June of that year. So clearly investors are happy about something. The question is, will they be happy next week?
Yeah, and maybe some not happy about this reversal on a Friday. There are people who are short this market, of course, but currently, right. I mean, a phenomenal move for Apple. Biggest one-day move since July the 31st, 2020, Ed. Great wrap-up of an extraordinary week. And we'll get to Apple in a moment. But first, I want to take a look at a very volatile week, as we were just saying, led by the tech stock staging a bit of a comeback. Well, a man who might be a little bit gloating about this shift to value is Bill Smead, CIO of Smead Capital Management. And this is a story. Yes, today the NASDAQ performs well. But in general, January has been a story of movement from growth into value.
It sure has. And the worst thing you can have is these violent up dead cat bounces. They went on for, from March of 2000, they went on all the way through to 2003. So I don't know what you should wish for there. I think if I were bullish on tech, I'd want them to form a sideways bottom for 6 months and build some kind of a base, because these abrupt rallies are more symptomatic of a bear market.
Interesting. I mean, a lot of people saying today's action, at the end of the week, sort of swift reversal, is in some way a look ahead to the fact that we're rebalancing for the end of January after an extraordinary sell-off month, that perhaps people are just trying to reallocate their portfolios ahead of that end of the month that we get on Monday. If this is a dead cat bounce, where to hide? I mean, you're a man who's sat on the West Coast in Seattle, but you're really looking not at the tech players. You're someone who thinks, look, time is not ripe for the energy trade, for example.
It's bizarre. People were more excited about oil at $65 a barrel in 2018 than they are about oil at $88 a barrel, when virtually everything involved has driven scarcity. You know, we used the example of cigarette commercials being banned in 1970, and over the next 40 years, the number of adult smokers in the United States got chopped in half. But Philip Morris was the best performing stock on the New York Stock Exchange in those 40 years because the price of a pack of cigarettes went from 20 cents to $5. And that's basically what we're doing. The massive amount of money flowing into ESG investing has overcapitalized innovative clean energy needles in a haystack and massively undercapitalized the future success of the oil business.
I just think it's an extraordinary time, really, to be looking at this market and understanding whether the US as well is the place to be remaining to put your money. The US dollar on an absolute tear. Of course, this is as we see a Federal Reserve get more hawkish as we anticipate those rate hikes. But what is the story of the dollar and whether or not you should be looking outside of the US?
Well, we just started a international fund ourselves, so we're a little bit biased about the SMED International Value Fund. So stocks are cheap outside the United States because most of the glam tech is not outside the United States, just like in 1999, most of the glam tech was not in the United States. We think making cars and producing oil and owning land and building houses and things that benefit from inflationary attitudes are where to go, not chasing the next dream of someone that hopes to create the next Netflix or Amazon.
We're looking at a dollar index up 0.7%. You talk about basically inflation hedges at the moment, but at what point, Bill, does Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, these tech heavyweights become again a place of safety, a haven, because they were the haven trade and their margins are such that, and their balance sheets are so clean to a certain degree that you would have thought they could still be the safety trade?
That was the question asked in 1980 about the oil stocks when they were popular. That is the question in 1990 about the Japanese stocks that made up most of the top 10. That was the question asked in 2000 about the top 10 holdings, which were mostly tech. And that was the same question asked in 2010 about the Chinese stocks that were, and the Chinese beneficiary stocks like BHP Billiton that everyone was asking that question about. The problem with asking that question is by virtue of the fact that you're asking that question, you're inviting poor investment results the following 10 years by trying to make it be so. Just accept the fact that you'll never see tech more popular than it's been in the last 12 months.
Wow. Fighting talk, Bill Smead. Gonna get a few writing in from that, I'm sure. CIO of Smead Capital, stay well, have a wonderful weekend. And of course, we want to get back to the Apple story now. Ed was mentioning the shares up. I mean, phenomenal move. Haven't seen that sort of a move since July 2020. Much better than expected results. Joining me now, Mark Gurman, who, of course, follows Apple the most closely of all people we know and breaks scoop after scoop. What did you make of the share reaction? What do you make of what you heard on the call from Tim Cook and the executives?
Thank you, Caroline. Well, the share reaction makes a lot of sense. It's well-deserved, right? These numbers were absolutely stunning, right? I think everyone expected that Apple would beat its guidance, right? Apple's guidance was that they would come in higher than the $111.4 billion from the year-ago quarter, but nobody really thought they would win the game by that many points. Nobody thought they would smash that by about 13, 14 billion. which they did. Extremely strong performance for the iPhone 13, despite it being a modest upgrade. Clearly, people still want to get their hands on 5G. Clearly, there's still a lot of upgraders. The Apple Watch and the AirPods did fairly well, despite the fact that these were pretty, incremental upgrades from the year ago devices. And so overall, very, very strong performance, other than two minor flaws with the iPad in Japan, when neither of those are especially core to the company's overall portfolio.
We had a great conversation previous to this on our Triple Take conversation about supply chain woes. They're actually getting worse. The Port of LA, where you currently sit, looking more ugly than it ever has. How has Apple managed to navigate that so well?
Seriously impressive. My take is that it's so fascinating that you see Tesla and other companies saying this is going to go on through the year into 2023, and you have Apple saying it's really easing up this quarter. Well, my take is that Apple has extreme pricing power, and they draw the most volume for these supply chain partners, right? In Taiwan, in Japan, China, elsewhere, in Asia, Vietnam. And what they're able to do is get these suppliers to really put them front and center, put them first in line when these components are available. Because a lot of these suppliers, they generate the bulk of the revenue from Apple. So of course they're going to choose Apple when their supplies are ready to give it to Apple versus a Samsung, versus a Microsoft, versus an Amazon or a Meta or another partner, right? Apple's going to be at the front of the line. They also have a very strong operational structure, right? They have people on the ground in China already throughout the pandemic, even when you were not able to travel, in order to start resolving these issues. So they've been working on this a bit longer than some of the other companies. They've had people dealing with these issues already for 2.5, 3 years. So they have a leg up in terms of pricing power and people.
There are, though, the odd tiny cloud on the horizon potentially for Apple. This one in particular, when it looks at antitrust, the App Store, Epic Games, there seems to be another step being made there in terms of support coming from various attorneys general in support of Epic.
Yeah, Apple's going to just make as much money as it can with its current App Store rules for as long as it can, right? They made, over $60 billion across fiscal 2021. They made a ton of money from the App Store in fiscal Q1 over that holiday period. So they're going to keep generating that money as long as they're allowed to. And once they need to make that fundamental shift across the entire App Store, they will. They probably will take a bit of a revenue hit there, but they're going to make as much money as they can till then, and they're going to invest it. And they're betting on, as the user base expands. Remember, they said they have 1.8 billion active users now as of this quarter. That's up 300 million devices in just 2 years. So the more devices they have, the more people they have buying apps, the more people they have subscribing to services. And so I think they're going to be okay in the long run, no matter what is done to their underlying business.
Ecosystem still going to keep on feeding the beast. Mark Gurman, we thank you so much on All Things Apple. Coming up, it's been a year since that GameStop furor. Do you remember it? We'll be reflecting on the meme stock phenomenon that put, of course, Robinhood in the hot seat and where the trading platform is headed. We're going to be speaking with Regent Atlantic's Andy Capirin. That's next. This is Bloomberg. So exactly 1 year ago, a swarm of retail investors went all in on a few stocks, including GameStop, AMC, following advice, of course, from various threads like the Reddit one, Wall Street Bets. This put Robinhood, of course, the brokerage, in the spotlight and upended many hedge funds' plans who were betting against such stocks. They were short them. What have we learned 1 year later? Let's bring in Andy Capirin. He's the partner and co-chief investment officer at Regent Atlantic, and a man who, we all remember kind of where we were amid the meme stock frenzy. It was an extraordinary story. But what are the aftermaths? Is retail still a bigger player now than it was then?
No, it's a much smaller one. And I think one of the reasons it's a much smaller one has everything to do with GameStop and how it played out for the smaller investor. It wasn't until the news had already broken, it wasn't until GameStop was already up significantly, that the typical retail investor opened up a brokerage account, did their first options trade, which was typically a deep out of the money call option on GameStop. If they were lucky enough to be one of the first few, that was a lottery ticket that paid off if they were unlucky enough to not to be one of the last few, it's been a slow grind down in the stock price of GameStop over the course of the past few years, or sorry, the past few months. And I think what it really is going to do long term is discourage that investor whose first experience was this lottery environment to become a long-term investor in the stock market. And that ultimately is bad for everybody. It means fewer investors in the stock market, less liquidity. It means that they won't use this engine of wealth creation for themselves, perhaps until they've had a re-education.
Perhaps they're not picking individual stocks at quite the same clip as they were. I mean, there's still, I think it's something like 17 million people using Robinhood. There's still an awful lot of assets that they have that they certainly store. And is there an element that people are now putting money to work in funds? They're putting it into work in ETFs. Is the retail investor just perhaps not picking individually anymore?
So Robinhood is an interesting part of this story, the ETF and individual stock story, because for many, many years, people have been putting most of their assets to work into index funds. Tax efficient, easy, don't have to think about it. You get an instant diversified portfolio. And then Robinhood broke the brokerage industry by offering free commissions. And there's a magic to free. Before Robinhood did this, commissions were $10 at some brokers, $5 at another. Not so much that it really makes a big difference to, say, a $10,000 trade, but it makes a huge psychological difference to make something free. That is, there's a certain magic to free. And I think what Robinhood has done is by forcing the other brokers to get to that $0 commission level, they are encouraging investors to trade more individual stocks. Now, all of a sudden, you have to think about it a little bit harder, but because it's free, that inhibition against doing it has gone away. I think more investors are investing in individual stocks. That has a lot to do with the market dynamics that we've seen over the course of the last 2 years, with some of the individual names that were popular with retail investors first experiencing a huge spike in their price and then a very rapid decline, especially over the course of the past 3 months.
Where retail has perhaps forced change is the behavior of certain hedge funds to go short, and to the extent that they go short a certain stock. Do you think that will have long-term impact, Andy?
I think it will, and I think it has in a couple of really meaningful ways. One is it'll permanently change the price of options. The people that were caught short in GameStop and in some of these other stocks, one of the reasons they were caught short is they simply overextended themselves, took too much risk. But one of the reasons that they got caught short is they didn't apply enough protection to the trade. You could have bought an out-of-the-money call option yourself to protect against this kind of eventuality. They didn't feel they need to. And I think that's permanently going to skew the price of out-of-the-money call options, especially on smaller, less liquid, volatile stocks. I think the other way that this changes hedge fund behavior is it's going to make them under-eager to run a fully balanced long-short book. They might maintain a long bias, even if they don't necessarily feel bullish about the stock market overall, because it's just so dangerous to be caught short in one of these stocks.
Really interesting ramifications, and well, perhaps a little bit of humility and hubris across the board, really.
That's right.
Region Atlantic's Andy Kaparin, we wish you well. Have a wonderful weekend. Meanwhile, coming up, it's a fight over the First Amendment and trademark infringement. What a case involving Meta Birkins could mean for the emerging NFT market. That's next. This is Bloomberg. Let's follow up on a headline that we mentioned earlier. The UK government has approved the extradition of Mike Lynch to the United States to face criminal fraud charges. Now, this comes after a London judge ruled the tech tycoon was dishonest in that $11 billion sale of his company. Now, the extradition decision by the Home Secretary was issued Friday, but Lynch is unlikely to be getting on a plane anytime soon. He can appeal a court's decision to allow his extradition. It's the latest in, well, more than a decade of twists and turns following the 2011 sale of Lynch's company Autonomy to Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. A year after the sale, the HPE, of course, wrote down the value of that deal, some $8.8 billion. Now, to another legal one that we're watching. It's a fight that could potentially end up front-running the U.S. Supreme Court. It could end up being there. We could see an upending of what is the ways in which we think about NFTs, in particular, Hermès Birkin bag versions. The luxury French designer is suing the maker of the non-fungible tokens over trademark rights. Let's get to the bottom of all of it and joined by Bloomberg Law Samantha Handler. Now, take us back a step. This court case, it's all to do with the fact that these non-fungible tokens get sold of digital Birkins, but without Hermès's say-so.
Yes. So Hermès is claiming that Mason Rothschild has infringed on their famous Birkin trademarks with his Meta Birkin NFTs. Hermès is saying those NFTs are diluting their famous marks. But Rothschild says his First Amendment rights protects him in selling these NFTs and has compared the situation to Andy Warhol's paintings of Campbell soup cans. And this might give courts or even the Supreme Court the chance to clarify the legal balance between trademark rights and the First Amendment.
Your view on how courts usually balance these sorts of trademark rights versus the freedom of expression?
Right. So courts have said these types of cases should only go in favor of the brand if the trademark has no artistic relevance to the work or the artist is explicitly misleading consumers on the source of the work. Appeals courts are inconsistent on how they apply this test, and it tends to favor artists. Attorneys think Hermès might have a better shot, though, because consumers might be confused about whether or not the actual Birkin maker is associated with these Meta Birkins. So many other brands have gotten into the space, like Adidas and, Louis Vuitton.
Yes, of course. The fact that many a company right now wanting to ensure that its presence is felt in the metaverse, Nike, another key one. I'm interested in the guidance, the potential guidance coming out of these rights. How do you think it will impact going forward? What are people going to be looking for to help dictate future decisions around this? And how can companies in particular potentially front run this so they don't end up in court but end up part of the process before it goes live?
Right. So companies can start filing trademark registrations in proactive categories that might cover NFTs. There isn't any specific category right now that does cover NFTs. But that's one way they could try to get ahead of it, or just go ahead and collaborate with artists right from the start, like Louis Vuitton has. Otherwise, people are watching this case to see if the Supreme Court or another court does clarify this test that might give brands a better outcome for these cases.
Is this the first major legal action that we've seen?
Yes. Yes. So there have been other suits involving NFTs and artist rights, but Hermès is the first large company, really high-profile plaintiff to take on this case, which is another reason it might be enticing for a court like the Supreme Court to eventually take on.
Bloomberg Law's Samantha Handler. It's going to be fascinating what sort of precedent it does indeed set and how people start to try and get ahead of the curve. We want to thank you. We've got so much more actually coming up on the crypto space. We're talking about being the future of business, potentially. Michael Shorlove's going to be joining us, CEO of cryptocurrency custody firm Fireblocks, about why he believes every business will become a crypto business and how they can protect it. This is Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Technology. I'm Caroline Hyde in New York. And it wasn't just tech stocks that had a pretty wild week. Crypto in on the act as well. Bloomberg's Ed Ludlow back in the action for us and talk to us through what the week that was.
Yeah, I mean, volatility was the buzzword. And I bring up this board, right, where I'm showing the Bloomberg Galaxy Crypto Index. Of course, it only trades Monday through Friday, largely a heavy weighting of Bitcoin, Ether, Ethereum, and then some other tokens as well. And it's interesting because Friday, Bitcoin pushed higher after we saw that equity market late push or rally towards $38,000 per token. But, you know, over a 1 week basis, Bitcoin's higher, Ethereum lower, and the NASDAQ 100 basically flat along with equities. So in a week where we had a Fed meeting, we get key earnings that have driven sentiment in the equity markets. I ask you once again, Caroline, what is Bitcoin? Come with me into my Bloomberg terminal and let's ask the question, because we've been looking at this chart for a long time now, the kind of correlation between the NASDAQ 100 and Bitcoin, okay? The correlation kind of remains high, it drops back down, it comes back high, risk on mode, risk off mode. What is it that we're thinking about here? And it is a question to continue asking guests, because Bitcoin did drive higher throughout the week, especially when Jay Powell made those comments right earlier in the week that he could even reassess his own inflation outlook for the year, maybe add a few tenths of a % onto that. But I'm still confused. I'm not quite sure where I stand on a day where we're risk off, quote unquote, in the equity markets. Bitcoin's kind of starting to behave its own way a little bit.
Yeah, digital gold or a risk asset? The argument continues. Ed Ludlow, we thank you for that breakdown. And let's just stick with the world of crypto right now. DeFi lending firm, that's Qubit Finance, just saw, well, another $80 million worth of its digital assets actually wiped out. Latest in a series of hacks for crypto trading marketplaces, which have left investors frustrated, companies suspending services to fix network vulnerabilities and the like. All of this can be a hindrance to the overall growth of the ecosystem. But let's talk about how you can prevent that. Cryptocurrency custody firm Fireblocks is with us. Michael Sholov is joining us. And Michael, I mean, first and foremost, we want to congratulate you on the fact that you've just had a mega new funding round, new market capitalization that rallies significantly in the private markets because more people want to be putting money into your business. Talk to us about the growth, because you've been adding more and more companies to help, with the custody, with the protection of their crypto assets, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Caroline. So, what we do, we basically provide a custody infrastructure for financial institutions, mainly fintech firms, banks, and other financial intermediaries that eventually either they're using this service for themselves, or they're basically creating white label solutions for consumers, for retail clients. As you can imagine, back on there's more and more interest clearly in crypto. 2021 was an amazing year overall for the industry. Our client base went from 100 clients, 100 institutions that were using us at the beginning of that year to over 800 where we finished 2021. And that's because all of those clients want to make sure that they have access to the most secure and well-protected infrastructure.
And maybe that's why, of course, your own market capitalization goes up to something like $8 billion. It's the likes of Bank of New York Mellon, Revolut. We're looking at some of the companies that you help support. Galaxy Digital itself. We were just talking about that crypto index that we sort of share with Galaxy Digital. I'm interested in whether you move outside the world of financial players, whether at the moment is the low-hanging fruit financial institutions that aren't yet offering a crypto offering that would become your future clients, or is the world your oyster?
Yeah, so actually, much to our surprise, and I must admit that the NFT sort of phenomenon also caught us by surprise, but because we've really invested in infrastructure for DeFi, and for those who are not so much familiar with the industry, NFT and DeFi, they have a very similar infrastructure. We were also well positioned for NFTs. And while we still see most of the momentum inside of the financial sector, in the last couple of months, we start onboarding customers that are really outside of the financial industry, mainly companies that provide gaming. So in the gaming industry, we see a lot of momentum. Clearly, it's sort of correlated to the metaverses, I think there is a pretty interesting future to both gaming and metaverse, where NFTs really play a big role, and also other businesses such as marketplaces, where they are sitting in the middle of those transactions and they can greatly benefit from this technology. So we're definitely seeing right now the expansion of the services that we offer to, just generally speaking, businesses. And I think that over the next 5 to 10 years, we will see basically most of the businesses leverage this technology for, just value that they create, content that they can tokenize. It's very interesting.
I mean, of course, we've been hearing a lot of the world of NFT combining with YouTube, with parts of Alphabet, which interestingly, the VC part, potentially, capital G, is obviously related to Google. How much are some of the investors that you're currently bringing on, capital G being one of them? We were looking at some of the other ones that you've been with, Spark Capital, D1 Capital. How are these companies sort of thoughtful for you in terms of being strategic investors?
Yeah, so first of all, I think those are some of the lighthouse VCs that for a fairly long period of time, they were actually not in the crypto, they were not investing in this industry. And I think in the last year or so, they sort of started to pay attention and invest in companies like ourselves. Clearly, with some of those names that we mentioned, there are strategic discussions that are, on the broader corporate strategy that they have. I think that many companies, basically like in all the big Web2 companies, that they have a lot of content that is generated on their platform or gaming. Google is one of them, Microsoft, Amazon, and many others, right? They are thinking about their strategy. What are they going to do with digital payments, and what are they going to do with NFTs? And having those people and those folks on our balance sheet and aligning with them strategically definitely helps with having those conversations. Also, to be honest, we like to be strategic partners and sort of thought partners to a lot of those people, because given the fact that we see what's going on in the industry today, and we are working with many of the innovators, many of the startups that are really developing the new things, we can help them to understand how exactly it works and what ideas really are really meaningful for them.
What about, legislation? What about the ways in which currently, not only the United States government, but worldwide, that institutions are looking at the development of crypto and understanding how to regulate it?
Yeah, I think that there is a lot of regulatory push in the last year or two. I think that overall the narrative in the cryptocurrency industry actually changed to welcome the regulation, right? As long as it's basically aligned with the technology. Because what we believe, and I think many others starting to believe, is that there is actually a better way to do consumer protection, anti-money laundering, and all the important things that regulation brings inside of the crypto ecosystem using crypto tools. So one of the things that we've actually done recently, we created a DeFi marketplace with a company called Aave that is enforcing sort of permissioned regulatory screening on the edges of that market, and allows a licensed institution to participate in DeFi, which before that was sort of impossible, because as a licensed institution, you couldn't actually figure out if you're going to undermine any OFAC regulations or things like that. So overall, I think that there is a pretty interesting development on that front, which will be positive to the industry.
Fireblocks CEO Michael Sherlock, great to have some time with you. Thank you for making the time after that fundraise, talking all things crypto. Meanwhile, coming up, it keeps getting, better, but we still aren't where we need to be when it comes to diversity on boards. My next guest is working to try and fix just that, starting with how companies even search for candidates. That's next. There's a Bloomberg. story we want to update you on. SoftBank COO Marcelo Claure, he's out. He's been with the company for the last 9 years. Michelle Combs will become the CEO of SoftBank Group International. In a statement on Claure's departure, CEO Masayoshi Son said, in part, Marcelo made many contributions to SoftBank during his time here, and we thank him for his dedication and wish him continued success in his future endeavors. Bloomberg had learned, of course, that Claure was looking for as much as $1 billion in compensation. Now, let's talk about what a record it has been for actually women in 2021. When it comes to board seats, they gained more than 100 seats in S&P 500 boardrooms last year. But still a lot of work still to be done, especially when it comes to the process of how companies look for board members and how we can drive true diversity, not just on a gender basis. Abby Elderman's with us. She's CEO of BoardSpan, plenty of expertise when it comes to advising boards, when it comes to strategies, governance, of course, what you were previously doing, M&A and the likes for them. I'm interested in those steps being taken. We're now seeing just sub 31% of board seats in the S&P 500 held by women. That's below Europe, below Australia, but still an improvement. Is it sustainable improvement?
Caroline, that is absolutely the right question to jump in on. And I just want to start off by saying that this whole issue of diversity, and people say, well, why is it important? Are we just trying to meet some regulatory requirements or tick some boxes? And in fact, it is really core to what makes for a successful board. And that's the whole reason BoardSpan exists. So diversity is a really important part of the equation, but it's really trying to create boards that contribute more to all of their constituents. As far as the question that you posed on the 31%, it's great progress, but there is some risk of sort of being asymptotic and having those numbers flatten out a little bit, because you have to think about the different pressures. How did we get to where we are? What's driving it? And what are the blockers coming forward?
I'm interested in that because we sit here as two white women. And I've spoken at length many a time with the likes of Ursula Burns, who has her own focus on board diversity, and particularly as a black woman. She said, look, white women have made inroads, but people of color haven't. We're starting to see improvement there as well, but not enough to the same extent. I think back in 2019, it was 1.5% of board seats in the Russell 3000 were women of color. That's an appalling statistic. How are we seeing that change?
Yeah, no, it is appalling, and there is progress with a lot more that needs to come. You know, the statistics show us that the people of color, more broadly, what's called the underrepresented communities, are up to 17%, which is some progress from last year. But I think the issue is really people focusing on, why do I want to bring this person on the board above and beyond the diversity characteristics? It is so critical for boards to think about the challenges ahead of the organization, their broader definition of constituents that we're sort of all a little bit more woke about, and the challenges they're going to have. And the value of having diverse board members is to get diverse thinking. These are a different set of challenges and problems as the world has changed. We've all experienced that over the last 2 years. And what serves that organization best is to bring what I call a tapestry of thinking. And that's where diversity really adds a lot of value. And I think when it comes to people of color, other ways to consider underrepresentation, by gender, and a combination, you're really getting that much more, frankly, sophisticated thinking and less monolithic thinking.
I mean, just think what the Federal Reserve itself has just been through. When we look at the seats of the Federal Open Monetary Committee, Philip Jefferson just being added, a black man who, of course, not only we think about a diverse in terms of statement, what we see, but also the intellect that he brings, the writing he's done when it comes to poverty, when it comes to coming from different backgrounds. Lisa Cook being added at the Fed, Sarah Bloom Raskin as well she comes with a wealth of experience when you come to environment as well. How do we build that sort of thinking in an earlier time? I mean, the Federal Reserve has been under a lot of pressure itself because it needs to think from a more diverse, inclusive nature from the labor market. How are people being set from a pay perspective? Are we starting to see real, tangible needs being put on executives to ensure that they think in a diverse manner?
Yeah, there's a few things going on. And you know, I think there was a little bit of a tipping point when the Business Roundtable redefined, you know, who are the constituents and saying it's not just all shareholder primacy. Obviously, investors still play an important role. But when we think about the critical importance of a board's responsibility to employees, to customers, to the planet, that's making us realize we need that talent that brings that additional expertise, that broader perspective. So I think that is one of the considerations that goes into it. But you know, there are other things that are going to help move that along. And then fighting it, unfortunately, on the other side are things like, you know, this really interesting NASDAQ rule that came out last year. And now it's up to 17 states AGs that have filed suits against NASDAQ. And so now we're saying like, whoa, that's a blocker. What's driving, you know, sort of that's what worries me about how much progress we can continue to make. I still think there's a lot of progress ahead of us. It would just be nice if we continued to have more wind at our back.
And the media need to keep shining a light on statistics such as that, where Charter Communications has 7% of its board as women. You know, not good enough needs to be sort of the framing. But I'm interested in sort of whether or not people so often say, oh, a pipeline problem, but there isn't a pipeline problem. It's just you have to be more diverse in the way in which you think about the talent you need. It doesn't need to always have been a CEO. It doesn't need to always have been a C-level executive even. How are you seeing people think more broadly about the experience and the expertise they need to ensure that they've got the right people around the table that don't look like themselves?
You know, that's exactly right. So I've always felt that it was a demand problem, not a supply problem. And so we always work with our clients around intention. What problem are you trying to solve? What are the needs? What are the challenges that are going to be coming up, or the opportunities you want to take advantage of? And with this world getting so much more complex, that's exactly the situation where you're thinking, you know what? Somebody who's really helped grow an international business, somebody that understands business disruption, somebody who's a true product expert. I'm thinking of one of the clients that we're working with, a company that recently went public called Meridian Link, and they specifically knew that what they needed in the case of one new board member was somebody who's really a true product expert, and in the case of their next new board member, somebody who understood how to go to market in financial services. With those two requirements, we were able to put two diverse women, what we call double diverse, on that board in the course of 2 months. There's tons of talent out there. It's about asking the right questions.
Abby, thanks for answering our questions. Abby Adelman, CEO of BoardSpan. Really great take there. Meanwhile, coming up, we'll hear from Ford CEO Jim Farley and Salesforce co-CEO Mark Benioff on what their partnership looks like. They are launching, of course, a brand new pilot project with Ford's suite of electric and digitally connected commercial vehicles. This is Bloomberg. Now, as Ford is in the midst of launching its electric F-150 Lightning pickup truck, they stopped by Sonoma County in California. Now, my colleague Emily Chang, of course, who I'm sitting in the seat for now, she sat down with the Ford CEO, Jim Farley, and Salesforce co-CEO, Mark Benioff, to talk about this new venture, starting with what Ford's new focus on services will mean for consumers. Take a listen.
There'll be kind of customized software that you can pick and choose, as Mark said, off a menu that would make sense for our commercial customers and our retail customers, that makes sense for them. Maybe prognostics or certain kind of telematics like dynamic routing or coaching for the driver if a gas or diesel van. So I think we'll have a subscription like we're so used to, and content, but it'll just be customized based on the usefulness of the data. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, I think it makes a lot of sense because, you know, when you look at all the opportunities, whether it's opportunities in sales and service and marketing, in commerce itself, in building these custom applications, the analytics, the dashboards, the data, so many of those things that you see here, that, you know, it's not typically how we think about our trucks. But in this case, you know, our trucks are connected. These aren't just trucks, these are connected trucks. Mm-hmm. And the truck is really becoming my friend. You know, I have a relationship with my truck. You know, I mentioned before in my new F-350, I have a new F-350 fire truck. I have a relationship with that truck. I have to make sure that truck is always ready to go because you never know when that's going to be a major issue for you. So I think this is what value-added services out of the cloud is going to offer us. It's going to offer us the ability to be more connected not only to our products but to each other, and we'll be able to do that in, you know, in every dimension of the business.
Jim, is there a number you can put on it? Like by 2030, how much do you imagine services contributing to the overall business?
You know, I don't want to put a number on it, but I can imagine that, you know, half of our commercial revenue could be either physical service of the vehicle or software. I don't think the answer will be like it'll be software and not the physical service. Mm-hmm. They're totally integrated in our case to keep the uptime 100%. But I could see half.
And obviously, Mark, Ford and Salesforce have had a relationship for a long time. Are you seeing more of your own customers rev up their relationship with Salesforce like this? And what does that mean for your business? Does that help you reach SMBs and new customers that you might not reach otherwise?
All of our customers have a need to connect with their customers in new ways. And when you look at Ford, I think one of the most exciting things about this event reminds me a lot of what Home Depot did with their business. All of a sudden they realized they had a B2C business, you know, for the consumer. You know, that's me and my Mach-E. But they had a B2B business, you know, their pro business. And when they did that, it was a radical acceleration of their revenue because they realized that is where they had a tremendous new marketing opportunity. And that's what's happening here with Ford by introducing something called Ford Pro. We really have the opportunity to focus on this market segment that's probably the most profitable market segment in the world for this company. And we are just at the beginning of an unbelievable story. And then when you add these comprehensive marketing services, the ability to build a one-on-one relationship with these professionals, to understand them, to be able to provide them the products and the services that they need, it becomes a tremendous product line over time. Also, you get tremendous feedback on what are the products that they really want, what are other services that they're doing.
Ford CEO Jim Farley and Salesforce co-CEO Mark Benioff earlier this week. Now, that does it for this edition of Bloomberg Technology. What an extraordinary week for tech investors and for Wall Street at large. That's why you've got to tune in next to Wall Street Week. Christina Hooper, Urian Timmer on the wild week in the market. Stephanie Flanders analyzes Jay Powell and the Fed's performance this week. And Barbara Ann Bernard on why it might be smart to invest in carbon and ESG. You do not want to miss it because very own Romain Bostick is helming it this week.
Hi there, and welcome to episode 69 of the Casual Gamecast, a weekly video game podcast for the everyday gamer, brought to you by your friends at Casual Game Content. I am your sexual passenger this week, Philip Q, and I'm joined by the electric, the rugged outdoorsman that is my ever-present co-host, Shane Bow. Hello, Shane.
Hello.
And we are joined by the sexual animal that is, of course, the man in the blazer. You can't miss him if you tried. Yes, the sexiest man in the business. It is, of course, Kieran Busby. Hello, my good friend Kieran.
Hello. How are you doing today? We're gonna take it down low.
And that's enough creepy stuff.
I was gone from the start.
Yes, my friends, we've made it all the way to episode 69. Can you believe it? 69 episodes in the bag. And we are not too proud to do that thing and lean into the fact that it is episode 69. Yes! So, if you have eyes, you've probably seen that the title of the episode is Sex and Video Games, Does It Ever Work? Something to that line anyway. And that's what we're here to talk about this week, ladies and gentlemen. It is... here's the thing. Okay, lads, here's the thing. So I was thinking this week, all right, what do we do? Okay, it's episode 69. Do we lean into it? Do we not? I kind of thought the classy move might have been to not do it. But then who's classy amongst us? So, who are we fooling here? One of us is wearing a mankini. For those of us that are on Videoland watching this with us, one of us is in fact wearing a mankini. As all of the frames in our video seems to be dropping by the moment, I'm thinking that they're mostly being found inside the bulge of that mankini. But I thought to myself, we can't pass up this opportunity to do something sexy. Because, we're not going to do that too often. That's not a topic we're going to touch on too often. So what better time than episode 69? And that didn't mean to rhyme. But here we are. So I thought to myself, what do we do? Do we do sexiest characters in gaming? Which is going to be a bonus question for later. So have a ponder on that as we talk, right? Because I'm going to just quick fire question to you guys before we wrap up. Who do we think the sexiest characters in video games are? But the main topic of the show this week, of course, is sex and video games. Does it ever work? Now, what do we mean by that? And we're going to get back to the serious topics now, okay? So what do we actually mean by that? Now, sex in video games has a surprisingly long history. It has never really been done very well, sometimes better than others. But, this is our opportunity to kind of say, okay, in the, 60 odd years of commercial video games, has it ever been carried off to the point where you went, okay, okay, that was done well. Okay, yeah, that was tasteful. That was acceptable. That was movie level or porno level, whatever you're into. Content, does it ever work? So this is what we're here to solve. So as per usual, I'm going to go around the table and ask the initial question and get the initial, temperature from each one of our guests. And this week, as per usual, I'm going to go to the man no longer in the robe, but in the very rugged, very, very sexually rugged regatta jacket. It is, of course, the main man, Shane Bow. Shane, sex and video games, does it ever work?
I'm going to start with two things. Number one, if Regatta's out there listening, would like to sponsor the show or anything,
Get them Benjamins.
Yeah, get them Benjamins. And two, Buzz, dude, you're killing me with the sexiness. From the get-go, I looked over at your screen and I was just like, all these faces you were pulling while Phil was doing the intro, I'm like, I'm gone. I can't even act sexy. It was just...
We have to put a content warning on the video of this. If you are listening in audio land, do check out the video of this on Casual Game Content's YouTube channel, because you do not want to miss the smolder of this man.
Yes. So anyway, back to, does sex in video games work? Yeah, I suppose sometimes it's a weird one. I was thinking about this today, and I was thinking about any moments that sprung to mind. And then I was thinking about things when you say pick up a hooker in GTA, and then you just it cuts to that angle where you can just see the car go or whatever. I was like, that kind of works a little bit. It's kind of gives it an implication of sex happening without having to actually be graphic or show anything. And that then I kind of thought, yeah, that works. But then for the most part in video games, when does it ever really, when is it actually displayed on screen?
Hot coffee?
But this is part of the conversation, I guess.
Yeah.
It's what is the threshold by which you judge whether something works or not?
Yeah.
But just off the cuff without examples, because we can go and get more into depth.
Yeah.
When I say sex in video games, almost does it have a place more so than does it work? Do you feel to this point in the offerings we've gotten so far, do you feel like sex in video games is kind of something that you would say, yeah, that kind of goes hand in hand with like story, with like sound, with, you know, set dressing, whatever other elements make up a game?
Yeah,
do you think like sexual encounters is kind of like a justifiable, you know, thing in video games just yet?
Yes. A kind of trepidatious yes. It's kind of you know, it I'll get more into it, but for me it very much depends on the context. You know, like some very like in-depth story heavy games where maybe it deals with a relationship between two characters or something like that, then maybe yes. But when it's something kind of like GTA where it's just put in there for the sake of, you know, picking up a hooker, like, you know, and we'll get more in depth into that later, but that's a trepidatious yes is my starting answer.
And is there anything sexier than trepidatiousness? Kieran, what about you? Sex in video games, does it work? Does it not?
100% in the camp that yes, it does, and for the reason is
that's confidence right there.
Well, I'm very sex positive, but no.
Can I also be sex positive, please?
I kind of substitute that with that, like kind of two or three different factors. One is actually touching on the topic from last week, which was like, can it be seen as a traditional form of art, or, you know, a proper term of art, and can it be seen as a proper type of media, whatever. Yeah. And my kind of look at that is that, like, every other form of media pretty much has sex all over it, as long as it's, you know, relevant to the story, the set, and everything as well. I mean, like, obviously you're not going to have it in a kid's game like Mario and Peach. You aren't going to suddenly, I mean, like, maybe on DeviantArt or something, but you're not going to see it like in game. Although who knows? Yeah, mature Mario could be a good one.
You know, we all
Mario rated M.
You know, Mario's in his like 50s now, right? You know, maybe it's time.
But I mean, like, films throughout the years, like, you know, there is definitely an element of sex and relationship that goes hand in hand, and like to really get that across in quite a succinct way is, I think, a very good way at kind of establishing it as being a more mature and art form. And then, of course, on the other side, it's also kind of cool, but especially seeing as, like, you know, you've got the likes of this game, which I'm going to talk heavily about today, which has just flashed my N7 tattoo for everyone. But yes,
which is placed right in the midst of a shaved pectoral, just buried. I'm trying to paint a picture for the audio listeners. Buried just underneath at the finest of black silk shirts, adorned under the finest of white suit jackets with a nice little red cravat in the pocket. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't subscribed to Casual Game content over on YouTube, now's your chance, my friends. But sorry, Kieran.
You flatter me. But yes,
that's why we have you, man. But it's the visuals. I'm only joking. Sorry, I'll shut up. I'm going away. Bye.
Yeah, we actually mute you when you're on the audio version. It's just here for the video. I would honestly say that there is 100% a place for sex in video games, as long as it's done right in the right contexts.
Sure. Yep. Yeah, and personally, I think the same. I think you hit the nail on the head. It goes very much hand in hand with last week's conversation, which is, you know, is it a legitimate, you know, form of media? Ergo, it kind of needs to touch on sex at some point, because sex is a part of human life. It's a part of our existence. Therefore, it needs to be covered in some shape or form. Is it done well? Is another question, you know, and that's kind of what we can dive into here. But I think we can kind of almost put to rest the, does it ever need to happen? Like I don't think any of us are thinking like, okay, we know even at this point here, none of us are advocating for getting rid of sex in games. Is that true?
Yeah.
So we're all in the same camp there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what I propose then is, rather than trying to work out why we feel that way, I think that's just a kind of a mature way to feel that, like, we're just not ashamed of sex. And like, even though its examples are a bit all over the place, it could be done a lot better, I'm sure. But like, rather than try to dive into why we came to the obvious conclusion that a part of life should be included in a medium, let's dive in instead into when it has shown itself, when it struck us, oh, there's sex in video games now, and how it was done and whether it was done well or not. Shane, I'm going to start with you, because you had the first example, which, if you say to anyone on the street, what's the first time you witnessed sex in a video game, I'd say 90% of people are going to say like GTA. GTA 3 specifically.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to agree with you. Like, you know, those like strip clubs and the picking up a hooker in the car, and then the car does that little like rock. If this car's rocking, don't come a knocking thing. Yeah.
And then you look into the car and there's nobody moving. They're just
they're both sitting in like passenger seat, driver seat, just.
Which is bizarre. They're not even looking at each other. It's crazy. Like, and their hands are down by their sides, so there's not even any hand action going on. But like, it is the first thing that comes to mind for most people, including myself. You know, when I'm thinking of sex and games.
Yeah, it was one of the first things that came to mind when this topic was mentioned a few days ago. It was like, yeah, that's the first. My brain automatically went to GTA straight away, first thing, without even a moment's thought. And then I started thinking about other games. And like a lot of ones that came to mind to me were actually quite story heavy. And any time I've experienced sex in games has been in very narrative driven games. Like, for example, I'm thinking of, which is kind of a nod to a funny thing in the books, but the stuffed unicorn in Witcher 3 with Yennefer. But like, there is a perfectly valid logical reason for Geralt and Yennefer to get together in the game, because they have a relationship. They have a romantic relationship throughout the story of The Witcher. So there's a place for it. You don't see any, you know, you might maybe see some Geralt ass or something, but like that's about it. And then it cuts to black and, you know, they're up smoking cigarettes under a silk blanket or whatever.
Which is exactly how I kind of, if I can interject, and, you know, I don't want to overtake this, but that's exactly how I want it to be for the foreseeable future.
Yes.
Is that like, I don't necessarily want to see CG ass and CG, you know, private smashing.
No,
and, you know, having to see that, because I can't think of what the game is called, but I think there was one out there that they went down that road and it was not pretty. But like the actual build up to the sex, the dialogue, the relationship, the will they, won't they, and then the suggestion of sex, and then the afterwards when they're having their cigarette conversation or whatever, that's lovely. And The Witcher is actually probably my gold standard for like how to handle it if we're just not mature enough in the medium to do it any better than I think what The Witcher has done so far, if you get me. I'm sure we can do better, but I'm struggling to think of when. Sorry, Kieran, I think I cut you off.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like the best way to do it, even in other forms of media too. I mean, like there's kind of rarely that you will see, apart from maybe a bit of rolling about and kissing and stuff, and that's very suggestive as to like, oh, they just made love, or they're just about to make love, and then it kind of fades to black. Wake up, do what you do, and like, you know, like my big example of that is a lot of the Bond films. Like, you know, everyone kind of says like they're full of sex, but I mean, like, they're not really to a certain extent. I mean, like, there's a good bit of kissing and cuddling, like, but that's about it.
Sexism, less sex.
Yes. Sexism. That's kind of one thing I wanted to touch on as well. Then is just like there's a difference definitely between like sex in video games and then over sexualization of characters, which you know is a different. Like I'm thinking kind of Bayonetta there as well, which is very much just like a kind of an unrealistic male gaze kind of idea of what a woman should look like or does look like, and that.
Yeah, like you can probably see the gears in my head turning. Like I thought about that too, and I had the same initial reaction when it came to Bayonetta in particular. Because to anyone who's not familiar, Bayonetta is essentially, you know, Platinum Games' answer to Devil May Cry, where you play as a witch whose clothes and all of her powers are manifested from her long black hair, and she is very, very vivacious and, you know, buxom. And she's flirty and she's not afraid to use that type of a character. But the one thing I will say about Bayonetta is she's written well. You know, she knows what she is, you know, and she plays off of that. And it's funny in the sense that it's not, do you know the way you see characters like this? I'm thinking of ones like, remember the Xbox 360 early game Bullet Witch, which was kind of Bayonetta with a gun and no personality. That was just the same idea executed poorly, and it was gross, you know. And even as a man, I could look at that and go, that is gross, you know. But I know many, many women who idolize Bayonetta because she is an empowered woman who, yes, is like over-sexualized, but she is choosing to be over-sexualized in order to have fun with her power, you know what I mean? And it's kind of like, yes, it's a complex narrative, and yes, there's a lot to look into here. But I will say, in Bayonetta's defense, because of the execution, it's not as bad.
Interesting.
Yeah,
but we can all agree that Peach is definitely the most over-sexualized character, like, you know, Princess Peach, or Zelda.
Yeah, like, again, it's like the Bond thing. That's just, it's like sexism over sexualization, because they're just damsels, you know, like they're, apart from, well, I suppose Zelda has the whole turning into Sheik thing, so that's
true.
She kind of has her own thing going on, but Peach has had one game of her own. Yeah. And it's pretty good. and that has been it. She's just been like, you know, essentially been Save Me Mario for the last 30, 40 years. And the odd time as a player 4. You know, it's like, it's completely unfair.
Yeah. But to Buzz's point, I get what he means about like sexism as well. Like, you know, you have games like Dead or Alive and, you know, like you said, Bullet Witch. And like, I remember years and years ago, back when video game like journalism and like conventions and stuff was still kind of the Wild West, and they were like showing off a demo for the new Dead or Alive, and they were literally using words like jiggle physics.
Yes, I remember jiggle physics.
Like, wow, that is not cool. Like, that is not, like, that is just, you know what I mean? Like,
I remember those days, especially like the Xbox 360 and PS3 being shown off, and they're like, look how many ripples there are on this fighter's breasts as they move. It's like, wow, is that really what we're doing? And people lapped it up. Yeah, I remember those games doing very well for that reason, you know.
Oh yeah, they even spawned a movie franchise, you know. So,
oh my god, I completely
one
forgot
movie
about that
possibly.
franchise.
Maybe there's a franchise, maybe there's one movie. I can't really remember. But there is definitely a movie.
Is that a Usain Bolt joined?
It sounds like something that would be, wouldn't it?
Oh, probably, probably.
Anyway, they had the girl from Tokyo Drift in it. Didn't it? It was one of the Fast and Furious ladies. Anyway, yeah, I think Dead or Alive was very much the example of how not to do this tastefully.
Yes, exactly.
You know,
exactly.
It's like the poster child of it. Do you remember like the beach volleyball game?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
God,
once again, it's all the same
like
stuff.
The loosest excuse for a video game, which was just look at our jiggle physics, the game.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's ridiculous. Like, and that's when it's done wrong. I think when it's done better is when stuff like, which I'm sure Buzz is going to get to, is like the kind of options RPGs give you for romancing characters and stuff. And BioWare has been very good at that. Absolutely. And been very good at romancing whoever you like, regardless of sexual orientation or, you know, male, female, male, whatever you want to do. Like, you know, the option is for you to do, which has been quite, I'm sure, empowering for lots of different sexual oriented people who play games. I can't speak on behalf of, like, you know, straight people, gay people. I can't speak on behalf of everyone, but I'm sure when you're younger and you're maybe not out to your family or whatever, playing a game where it allows you to romance someone of the same sex that's your jam or whatever. That's a terrible way of phrasing that. You know what I mean? Yeah, move on. Stop talking.
Sexual libertarian Shane Bow, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. Let's have the three middle. I don't want to say middle age, but three like adult white guys talk about.
Calling me middle age? What do you think I am?
I know. I'm not even middle aged.
Young chicken.
What I was getting at was, let's not have the three like, you know, adult white guys talk.
Three white guys just tell people about how to feel about you know. Natures.
You know what I'm getting at here. I'm digging a giant hole for myself.
It's true, and I think that like we're getting to a point where that cross-pollination of gender options in romance options in games is less. See, the thing I will 100% throw over to you now, because Buzz, you are obviously the biggest BioWare fan of the three of us, and I think you'll have a better take. But the one thing that always kind of made me feel a bit weird about BioWare was you could romance everyone, and is that nearly worse? You know, because at that point your people are kind of pastiches of whatever you choose to be. They're not their own people. Like, because in the real world you can't romance anyone. You know, it is people have genders and people have preferences and people have, you know, but like it was a step in the right direction. But Buzz, please, there's too many B's in this podcast. Buzz, please, you know, enlighten everyone.
Well, I'm going to go back to the original question first of all, because I'm about to go on to Mass Effect now. But whenever you said like the first kind of like view of sex, I was going to initially, and the same as Bo as well, the first game that came to my head wasn't Grand Theft Auto, but was Mass Effect. And then I was kind of thinking a bit more, and I was like, oh, the Metal Gear Solid 3 have a little bit with Eva and Snake. And then anyway, that was a different side thought.
So a little will they, won't they?
Yeah. But then that was again a good relationship, and I feel like there was definitely a scene at some point in a cave where they probably got it on.
Where she zips down her top and then gets off and straddles him, and then it cuts to black and he's like asleep and she's getting out of there. I remember now.
That made a big impression on like 7-year-old me. But anyway,
I was super into 70s spy movies at that point.
James Bond. I was like, whoa, this is a Bond
Look
game.
at the jacket, man. It speaks for itself.
But yes, Mass Effect, I think, was definitely my first kind of real experience of like being able to get that exploration and to see who you can romance and stuff. And to counter your point, there actually are quite a few whole host of characters you can't flirtate with. And then there is also, if you don't agree with them or align with them, they also do shut you down. So I think it's more so like that there is that many options to do. And then there's also a few different things as well, like in the second one, or sorry, the first one of the big ones is that Liara's kind of falls head over heels for Shepard. But, well, not really head over heels, probably just, anyway. But so let's say for me, myself, I usually in the first game romance Ashley, which is the kind of the human at the beginning, and she's the kind of meme of the space races, but she does mature throughout the thing thanks to Paragon Shepard. But yeah, there is this kind of a spat then where you kind of have to choose between the two, and Ashley's like, I thought we were having something going on here, like what's going on, and you have to pick between the two of them, whatever. So there is that kind of limitation of options in one playthrough of who you can and can't romance based on whatever way you're playing the game. Then of course there are even for some characters complete lockouts. So Caden, for example, in the third game, he I believe is bisexual, could be wrong in saying that. He's definitely of a persuasion. I think both male and female Shepard can romance him, but I could be wrong.
I think female could after the first game. I think in the first game he's strictly a male relationship. If I
think he's strictly straight in the first one. See, I don't think any of the LGBTQA plus options came in until the third game.
I remember there being some controversy about him switching sides.
Which is probably just a lot of I'm not going to say anything just in case we upset people. But yes, absolutely. It's of course okay to be bisexual and have a preference in the first game and change over to the third one because you've fully realised.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Jesus, in case that came off wrong. No, that's not what I meant at all. Well, I just meant more so people got unjustifiably angry about it. I don't mean they had any reason for it.
No, 100% not, because I think that's what at the time people were like, oh, he's like not buying it, like he wasn't buying the first one and stuff, which is just like people can change and rediscover themselves. That out. No worries. But yes, so it's really like quite an interesting one whenever there is kind of that option. Yes, there is so many options you can pick in any one playthrough, but for me it's always been Ashley in the first one, then Miranda, and then Miranda again, because that's I found my true love.
Sure.
And I cannot for the fathom myself go with anybody else apart from Miranda on a playthrough, just for whatever reason, But yeah, I think that their romance is quite good in the sense that you're building up this whole time, and she's the Cerberus, real like empowered female role, and then you kind of see that little kind of fragility maybe whenever she kind of has doubts about herself, and you kind of encourage her not to, because even though she was made to be the most perfect human being on earth, which I mean she is, I wish I had my mug here, but it says currently romancing Miranda Lawson on it, that even their sex scene, quote unquote, does end up kind of like that same Metal Gear Solid 3 scene where it's just like a little bit of a straddle, hug and a kiss, and then that's fade to black, and you go about your daily business after that. But yes, I would say Mass Effect is definitely one of the big ones for me of being a good representation of sex and done in a right way, or the right way.
Absolutely. And I think as you were talking about it reminded me of a lot of those moments, even and to correct my earlier statements, there is that lockout, because I do remember in the second game, the character whose name I can never remember, the lady with the shaved head and the tattoos.
Jack.
Yes. Yeah. I remember as male Shepard trying to romance her and being shocked that she was just like, you're not my type, I think what I'm more so thinking of is Bethesda RPGs. where it's kind of like I can create any race of character, and I can not only pick a gender, but I can create like, you know, lizard men and stuff. And it's just like, you know, the romance options are just plentiful because they are all available to you. If I'm remembering, maybe Fallout 4 shakes things up a bit, maybe New Vegas does, I'm not 100% sure, but I can't remember being turned down for any reason apart from, oh, you blew up, you know, Nuketown or whatever. Oh, I can't go with you. So, you know, like those arbitrary reasons or whatever it is.
It's just like in rural villages, you know, you blew up the cattle shed. Like, I can't go out with you. Your father's going to kill me if I go out with you.
Did you dance with the Bull McCabe? I can't dance with you. Absolutely.
You're from a different parish to me.
They'll be talking down the village. I think, yeah, it's in terms of relationships, I think that it's never been a better time for gaming. Like, I think I suspect that if we went back to PS2 days or PS3 days even, you know, you're starting to see that type of stuff happen. But like in the PS4 onwards, Mass Effect being that, you know, one outlier, like I think we are starting to see in most games, like, you know, that are where you have a bit of agency, you are building up more relationships. Because what used to irk me before, it goes back to the Grand Theft Auto thing of like, like sex in video games was always a transactional affair. It was always, you know, find the person and press X, or, you know, find a person and talk to them for like 30 seconds and then press X. And it was just felt like empty and not needed, you know? And that's kind of why I think in my head, The Witcher is like my gold standard, because like my girlfriend laughs at me every time I replay that game, which is probably 4 or 5 at this point. Because I always try and never succeed, because I refuse to follow a guide to romance everyone to get that last cutscene. I'm not into that type of thing generally, but it's just they put so much care into it in The Witcher that I'm just like, I want that cutscene where like he's managed to get them all at some point, and I always fail. But you know, the thing is, you're so invested because you've spent so much time with each of these people, and you as a person are generally like, you might be going like, oh, if I get Triss now, I'm going to get a trophy. And you go in with that mentality. But then within like an hour of mission going around with Trish, you're like, oh, she's a really cool character. I can't wait to go back to town and talk to Triss. You know, it's like, oh my God, am I falling for Triss? Is this happening right now? You know, like, and that's kind of why it's that relationship building that is so hard to find. It's in Mass Effect. It's in The Witcher. I'm sure it's in a Dragon Age game. I've never played them. You know,
I was saying in the green room, I remember in playing Dragon Age Inquisition, and one of the party members you can have is like this like 7 foot tall like purple tiefling guy with horns and stuff.
And I would be all over that.
I remember like, you know, finishing a mission one time, and I was like playing as like this little like dwarf bearded like, you know, dude with an axe or whatever, Gimli style, and he's like, you know, after we killed some dragon or whatever, he's like, so how about me and you, like, you know, go down to the tavern or whatever. I'm paraphrasing, but you know, and I'm like, this it came out left field for me, you know. I was like, whoa, you're like big purple dragon man and I'm just this little dwarf guy, what's going on here? Because I'd never played like a BioWare kind of game up until that. I've dabbled in Mass Effect, but I've never really gone hardcore into Mass Effect. I know, yeah.
You went hardcore this time.
I put a lot of time into Dragon Age actually, and they do it too, but once again, it's BioWare, so it's
my tattoo. My tattoo just got like one of those Harry Potter moments where I felt it into Scar or whatever. It's like,
it's white hot. It's burning through his shirt, ladies and gentlemen. It's BioWare. You have to give it up to them. I don't know. I don't really like run in a lot of, you know, circles to be able to talk in any definitive way about how people in more marginalized communities feel about BioWare's implementation. From my like white cis perspective, it seems like it's quite diverse, but is that the shared narrative? Does anybody here have an idea on that, or should we just like back away from that topic?
No, I'm not going to speak about stuff I don't understand.
I don't think I have enough statements in either, but I would say that like one of the underrepresentations maybe of Mass Effect at present, because hopefully Mass Effect 5 will change that, is kind of the trans community, and there hasn't really been much there. But who knows, in the next one there might be a bit more representation there.
Hopefully. There wasn't really an awful lot of trans, maybe by the time Andromeda came around, and I'm not saying there wasn't trans communities. Of course there was. But you know, the world, rightfully so, has opened its eyes more to the trans community in the last, you know, I'd say 10 years, but the last 5 years in particular, it has been very much, you know, we demand to be seen, and as rightfully so. So then I would hope, yes, as you say, Mass Effect 5 comes around, but like, I'm just wondering, would there have been an incentive to do it before the last 10 years? So maybe Andromeda should have had more representation, but like, I think there's been so few games that could do it over the past 10 years, but not to give anybody an excuse or anything, but I'm just trying to think what examples of games apart from Andromeda could that have been an option, you know? Oh, hello. I have a Bluetooth speaker here, ladies and gentlemen, and it speaks like a valley girl. It's weird. But I really, really hope that that this does get corrected, and you know, people who deserve to be seen do obviously deserve to be seen.
Yeah,
absolutely,
100%. Definitely.
However, on the sexy bit, what I would also like to bring up is, because Grand Theft Auto has been talked about at length now, I suppose, is San Andreas, because there is sort of like that multiple girlfriend womanizing kind of aspect to it, where you just go to their house, take them out for a wee drive, maybe have a wee shoot about, and then go back to the house and do whatever. But of course, the controversial one from that, which really kind of in the 2000s shone a bit of a light on gaming and some of the other aspects of it that probably shouldn't be there, and even though it was just like a mod in the background, it wasn't actually like modded properly or whatever, it wasn't included in the game. Hot coffee was also a huge thing.
Amazingly, the controversy that came around Hot Coffee and the recent re-release of those games had Hot Coffee still in there. Amazing. But that's two examples right there of, you know, what we were saying earlier, where it's like it's always been a kind of a transactional affair, where it's like, pick up lady, literally meters pop up that's like, you know, Chloe's likeness of you has gone up 10 points or whatever, and then you do that, rinse and repeat. And then the other example of Hot Coffee being trying to put something into a game that represents the act of sex, and then kind of going, we're not ready for this yet, and pulling it out, but just leaving it there for modders to find. San Andreas is a great example of it. Are we at that point now where we've kind of discussed everything we could really discuss about our own perspectives on this now, but just kind of maybe dive into a couple of examples? So like San Andreas is a good one, but like a couple of like other examples maybe of it, because like I'm always tempted. Has anybody here ever played Custer's Revenge?
No.
Right, Custer's Revenge is hilarious in the sense that it's awful. It's incredibly offensive to everybody. Every demographic that could be represented in Custer's Revenge is offended. But it is probably the first example of sex in video games, full stop. It's an Atari 2600 game. And it was a massively, massively offensive thing. But you were essentially a cowboy. You have to get from A to B without getting shot, I believe. And there is an Indian lady tied to a pole. And your idea is to get to this Indian lady, and when you get there, you fornicate with her. That is the reward.
That's your
whilst
prize.
She's tied to the pole. Yeah.
Wow. Ooh, that's important.
Incredibly offensive.
Yes.
Incredibly wrong. You know. But like, if we're talking sex and games, that's the instigation point.
Yeah.
And to go from something that was so base, so offensive, so wrong. And then we're at a point where we're kind of like talking about the nuances of the relationship conversations in Mass Effect and The Witcher 3. We've come a long way since the Atari 2600. I just want to put that on the record. Is that Custer's Revenge to where we are today? Huge improvements.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, I was going to bring up as another in poor taste example, Leisure Suit Larry. If anyone remembers Leisure Suit Larry.
Never played it, but yes, I do have.
And Leisure Suit Larry is...
You're cosplaying as him right now.
You kind of are a little bit, actually. Leisure Suit Larry is basically... It's very much of the teenage movie American Pie kind of like, you know, it's just all about how do I have sex with a girl? Like, how do I...
Gotta get some.
Yeah, gotta get some. I am a horny teenager and I gotta get some no matter how much... One thing I will say, while I don't condone the game, and it's not... Like, it's in really poor taste, I have to give the sequel props for one of the greatest video game titles of all time. There's a current sequel on the PS4 right now that you can walk into your local game store and buy called Leisure Suit Larry, Wet Dreams Don't Dry.
Oh,
it is awful, and that is on the shelf, like, for anyone to walk in and see. And like, but it's also for the type of game that is a great sequel title.
That is pretty inspired titling for an awful game.
It's inspired, even though I don't condone the game. It is inspired marketing. I will say that. But yeah, Leisure Suit Larry is another one of those poor examples where, like you said, Phil, it's about having sex by any means necessary because you are the horny teenager who's off to college or whatever, and you have to get some with everybody possible, like anything that moves, you know.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
Another good example maybe of it being in both poor taste and maybe, you know, good taste, it depending on how the player does it, is the Sims series, because you know, Woohoo is definitely a big, and that actually was probably my first interaction with it being in the game, but just because it was called Woohoo and it was just like wrestle about in the bed under the covers.
It was like a Looney Tunes like scuffle where it was almost like, you know, a cloud of dust and just arms and legs coming out.
And you know, that obviously serves a purpose in the game if you want your Sims to, you know, have a baby and make a new Sim. But yeah, it's a weird one because you can also just be like a big dirty fella going about doing it with half the town and have 200 Simly babies.
I suppose when there's a kind of the beauty and the downfall of The Sims, like you said, is that it's completely up to you.
Yeah,
you know, because Sims is a digital dollhouse. It is like, you know, action figures. You know, do what you want with them. And maybe as a kid, people had their action figures. Like they maybe had like a Ken doll going around sleeping with all the different variations, Barbie or whatever. You know what I mean?
my Buzz Lightyear and my sister's not Bratz dolls, I can't remember what they were. They had a great time now, Summer and Tia. You couldn't pick between the two of them.
We were literally just talking about that the other day, me and my partner coming back with our shopping, and I don't know how we got onto the topic of, like, you know, did you ever, you know, look at your Barbies, you know, bits or your Action Man's bits or whatever when you were a kid? And I was kind of like, I never actually had, you know, posable dolls as a kid. It wasn't something I had. I had like trucks and I had like the outdoors and stuff. I had video games, you know, but I never had like an Action Man or something with pants, you know what I mean? So it didn't really happen. And she was going to tell me, like, oh, like any normal, healthy child, like you would look.
Yeah.
And like my first thought is like, if that is your expectation, you must think that what you see then when it actually happens is the most grotesque thing in the world. Because like, you were expecting this beautiful, shiny, just, you know, flat thing, and all of a sudden there's this like monstrosity flopping in the wind or whatever your preference is, you know. It's a stark contrast, you know. Just putting that out there. But yeah, any other like strong examples of sex in video games that might come to our listeners' minds?
One that recently came to memory actually was we've talked about it quite a bit on the show before. The Last of Us 2 has quite a lot of like romance and stuff. You have Abby and what's his name, who I cannot remember for the life of me. You have Ellie and what's her name?
Other name who's
yeah. You know, you have stuff like that. Although I think like there was a like semi-graphic scene with Abby and the guy on the boat.
Graphic.
Yeah, on the boat. That was kind of
super graphic.
I remember the Ellie and the girl one, like it was very much like we've talked about. There was a bit of cuddling and kiss, and then it cut to black, and then it cuts back to them like smoking a joint in their underwear or whatever, you know. But the other one with Abby was kind of graphic a little bit, and it was a bit like a lot of that game is graphic. You know, that game borders
like to use an offensive term, like the word raw dog comes to mind. It's pretty graphic, like consensual but graphic.
That's another one that came to mind recently, but that game is graphic in so many levels in different, you know, things. But yeah, that's another one that came to mind very recently, and that's a very story heavy game. Like it is the story heaviest game out there, you know. And they do it so right and so wrong in some respects.
I'd say as well, then kind of pulling over, like, this isn't, it's not really sex per se, but I mean, like, in terms of romance and like real meaningful connection and relationship, which is, you know, maybe a lead up to sex, or like, you know, what you need anyway for a good successful relationship.
The more interesting part, really.
Exactly, yeah. Is a great example for me is the Life is Strange series. So like the first one, Before the Storm, and then the most recent True Colors one, which again has quite very, very strong LGBTQI plus representation across the board. And to me, like they're like games that always stick with me as being like, that was one of the games where like I found every decision so difficult and weighted and emotional, and then the relationships built up with those characters, which those, you know, choices always kind of impact, was just remarkable.
Now, just to wrap this one up with a bow, because we've kind of talked about like we've kind of walked around and we've talked about this in every aspect to say, you know, sex in video games, is there a place for it? Yes. Is it always handled well? No. And we have talked about examples. However, very quickly, because I know we're running on and we do need to take a break and then come back for the bonus question, is what do we feel, if we have any idea? And if you don't have any idea, there's no need to vamp. You can just say, no, I don't know. But what do we feel is needed? What's the step that, you know, if you could whisper into the ear of BioWare or into any video game developer to say, this is what you need to do to sell sex that step further? Like, what do we want next? You know, what will help the medium in this way? It's a hard question.
I don't think I do have an answer for that. You know, like give us more of what works well so far, and you know, I mean, like the more graphics get kind of better and stuff, I mean, like you're going to get more facial expression, more animation, more realistic kind of development of character and stuff. And you know, you don't need to show anything graphic really. So I haven't played what's it called? Last of Us Part 2 on the wish list to watch and to play through. But yeah, I just maybe step away from that and take a leaf out of what traditional media is like, you know, film and TV have done, and how to do that. So just a bit of rolling about, a little bit of more passionate, you know, what have you, and don't take inspiration from any of the other industries.
Yeah, I agree. Like, and it's not from a prude perspective. I don't have a problem with necessarily, you know, sex scenes. And maybe some games do need to have them in order to have that spectrum, so everybody has what they want, I guess. But like, I'm on the same boat as you, is that like, there's so much more in the range of like build up that expectation than there is in the actual, you know, delivery generally. Even in The Last of Us, which I will applaud for being like, well, this is how sex sometimes is, you know. One example is really sweet, one example is really not, but like that is also the real world of sex. So like I applaud them in that sense, but like in the other sense, I couldn't wait for that scene to be over. It was just like, okay, stop now. Okay.
Gosh, I really watched this. Like,
it's worth a Google. It's worth a Google. But Shane, what about you? What do you have any suggestions to all game devs out there? Because we know that they're listening. We're going to tell them how to do their job, of course, because we are qualified to do so. Definitely. What would you advise that they could do?
I tend to agree with Buzz in that, like, a lot of them are doing it right already. You know, like the games we've talked about that are doing it right, are doing the right thing, and more of that would work well. And if my only one advice to all the game devs listening, all of you, the entire gaming industry, is for the love of God, if you're going to include actual sex in a game, do not make it a quick time event.
Oh God, yeah. Press F to pay respects, press X to get it on.
I was just going to bring it up, and because I only thought of it when we were answering this question, and I was going to throw it in at the end. And, oh, by the way, honorable mention too, God of War.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Remember when Aphrodite, I think it was?
Yes, that actually is.
And you had to slam circle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dear God.
Wow. Yeah. God of War has not aged well in a lot of respects. Really hasn't.
He's such a redeemable character in the new one, because like he's a caring dad and he genuinely loved his wife, and he loved his first wife, I think, but like he loved that last one a lot, it seems. And you know, there's a lot of like redeeming things, but like the early God of Wars were so misogynistic and weird.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes the new God of War work so well, though, is that we've seen this matured Kratos who's like not doing all around him or whatever. Like, you know,
that's right. He's grown, like he's literally grown as a person.
It's like a weird example where it's like, yes, if you've made mistakes in the past, maybe they wouldn't be seen today as being good. Like you can take that character and mature them and give them that character development that makes them, you know, it even better, and doesn't maybe, you know, make what has happened in the past any better if you go back and look at that in a singular perspective, but just makes that whole story arc and character arc a lot more fuller.
Kratos has grown more in the last 15 years than Mario has in 40.
Yeah.
That way.
Yes. Gosh. Damn it, Mario.
Anyway, yeah, I think that there is no right answer to this. I think that art will find a way. I think that there is room for everything. If it's not for you, it doesn't have to be, nor should it be. And that's just the way it is. And I think that a lot of the game developers we were talking about there are doing it right. So, you know, applauds to them. But that has been our discussion on the topic of the week, being sex in video games. Does it work? What do you think? You at home? Yes, you. I'm speaking to you. Look into the comments down below, wherever you're finding this, wherever you're listening to this, and let us know whether you think it works, or pop over to our socials, our Facebook or our Discord. They are down below in the description, and let us know there. So very quickly, boys, I do want to, it's a sexy time. It's a sexy cast, you know? When else are we going to get an opportunity to list off what we think are objectively the sexiest characters in games? We don't necessarily have to be sexually attracted to them, but you can look at a character and go, oh, that's a sexy character, you know? So I'm going to say we try our best, very unprepared, to crown the sexiest character after this very commercial break. So if you wouldn't mind, play that thing! Hey there! If you want to keep up with all things casual game content, you can do so in a number of ways. The easiest way to do so is to follow us on all of our socials at Casual Game Co. Not content, because you only get 15 characters, but hey, what can you do? At Casual Game Co. That's at CASUALGAMECO. Can't be any simpler than that. On Twitter, on Instagram, and on Facebook. And when you're at Facebook, look for the group, the Casual Game Community. It's a good bunch. We're going to love you. Come on by. If you could do us a massive favor, like the podcast, review the podcast, and just tell a friend about the podcast. It goes a long way, and you can find all of our content on podcast forums wherever you get your podcasts by searching for Casual Gamecast. Thanks again for all of your help and all of your support. It means the absolute world to us. Now, back to the show. And we are back. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as promised, Buzz has gone away and shown us his cup. So, Buzz, tell us about your cup.
This is my cup. I like it. Yeah, so for anybody who can't either see that on the video or for audio listeners, it is a cup, just a regular mug that says relationship status. There are 3 boxes, and beside each box, one says single, taken, both are unchecked, and the last one says romancing Miranda Dawson. And my girlfriend got me for that last birthday last year, and yeah, phenomenal. So my first pick off the bat is Miranda Dawson, amazingly sexy.
Hold on, you're jumping the gun. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is the bonus topic of the show, where we are going to ask who is the sexiest video game character known to man. And we are going to do so off the top of our heads by each of us picking 3 people. We're going to just like, when we think sexy in games, we think of A, B, and C. And we are all going to whittle those down to 1 people each. Then we're going to take each of our champions and pit them together in order to whittle them down to 1 remaining champion. And they shall be the episode 69 mascot of the Casual Gamecast. Now, back to Buzz, who's going to give us his first option.
Sorry, I jumped the gun. It's Miranda, you know, Miranda's just jumping the gun, man.
It is what it is. You know, there's pills for that, man. It's grand.
Yes, Miranda Dawson, number 1, all day, every day. If I could give her all 3 slots, I would. So
you dirty devil.
I suppose then number 2, no surprise, another Mass Effect character, even though I haven't romanced her yet, is Jack from Mass Effect as well. Very attractive.
Interesting
lady.
choice.
And do you know what? For 3, it's a tough one. It's between Yennefer, even though I haven't played The Witcher yet. I've just seen her and been like, I'm definitely going to romance her. She looks an awful lot like Miranda too, so it's like, oh.
You have a type, it's emerging, yes.
Yeah. Don't tell my girlfriend. And then my third, I'm going to go with Eva from, or Eva, whatever name, I think it was Eva, from Metal Gear Solid 3.
Am I wrong in saying you had 4 choices? So there was Miranda, Jack, Yennefer.
No, Yennefer was
Eva.
Yennefer's like a nice mention, like a little
honorable mention.
Okay.
Honorable mention.
Okay,
yeah.
So she doesn't make the list, but she almost made your list.
Yeah, but I don't want to rank women either. Like, you know.
I'm asking you. Hey, excuse you. Before this becomes the narrative, I never said rank women here.
Okay, that's true.
We are
that's
talking
true,
about sexy people. Okay, as long as they're not an animal or a mineral, we're covered. Okay. And they can be an animal if that's your thing. I don't care. But is that your list? So we have Miranda, we have Jack, and we have Eva.
Yes. Honorable mention the Pikachu if we're allowed to pick animals.
The one with the heart tail specifically. Ooh. Shane, what about you? If I had to give you gun to your head, give me 3 names in video games that not necessarily light your fire. It can light your fire, but you can just look at them and go, they're just unarguably the sexiest people in video games. Who would you say?
Yeah, Geralt of Rivia, of course. That man,
I was going to say something similar. Yeah, he smolders.
Oozes sex appeal. Minecraft Steve.
Wow.
No, I'm only messing. That's a joke. That's a pure joke.
I couldn't wait for the explanation.
Yeah, no, that's a pure joke. Sadie Adler from Red Dead Redemption.
Oh, good choice. Good choice.
Yeah. And just for the pure boyhood, like nostalgia, kind of, you know, sexual awakenings that happen, like Chun-Li from Street Fighter.
Those ties, man. Those ties don't lie.
Yeah. And there you go. There you go. There's 3 for you now.
So Geralt of Rivia.
Yeah, that man just, I don't care whether you're gay, straight, or whatever, like, that man oozes sex appeal.
Do you know what? For me, just doesn't do it for me. Even Henry Cavill is just like, yeah, he's all right. Yeah, I know that's a really unpopular opinion, and everyone's going to be like, "What? Are you blind?"
Unpopular.
My girlfriend is currently jumping in the car now to come strangle you at your house. But that's, you know.
I can hear mine stomping around at the moment. Like she's losing it.
Oh, here, my girlfriend's doing the same. She has a life-size cutout at home. Like.
And we have lost probably all of our female demographic, which was higher, if anything. But yeah, like it's to each their own. But I will say this is that I'm part of the Witcher, Facebook group or whatever. Back before there was a show, and then the show came around, and since that show 2 years ago or 3 years ago came around, it has devolved down to nothing but Henry Cavill pictures, both in Witcher form and not. It is just Henry Cavill all day, and every day I open up my phone, I'm just bombarded with Henry Cavill pictures, and I'm not unsubscribing. I'm not saying I'm not with it. I'm not saying I'm not enjoying it. It is what it is. But yeah, it does seem as if you're very much a man on an island when it comes to that opinion.
I know, I really am. I mean, like, he's not a bad looking guy. It's not like he obviously has sex appeal, but just for me, nah, I wouldn't do it.
He's the king of the nerds, though. Like, you can't be that big, powerful, and good looking, and also know stuff about World of Warcraft and building PCs and still be a human being. There's just something magical about that man. Anyway, but specifically, we're talking about game Geralt here. Now, Geralt, Sadie Adler, and Chun-Li.
Yeah.
Okay. For me, we talked about her earlier. My number 3 choice would probably be Bayonetta, because that's what she's designed to be. I don't care whether it's your thing or not. Like, she's just unequivocally like sex epitomized in gaming, I feel like, and it's done in that way that isn't sleazy, as I mentioned, but it's borderline. It's so close to that, which kind of makes it even sexier. I don't know why.
Taboo, I think, is the word you're looking for.
Taboo, that's it. Yeah, that's it. I think that Yennefer of Vengerberg is definitely up there. She's definitely my romance choice, like, every time in The Witcher. That's why I can never make the whole Trinity happen, because I'm just like, Yennefer's my girl. What can I do? But sorry, Triss. You're lovely, but and then of course Number one, I'm struggling between. So I'm gonna throw it out here. I think it might be Solid Snake.
Do you know, whenever I said Eva, and then whenever you said, Mr. Witcherman, Geralt, I was like, Solid Snake is quite good. And then I was like, maybe I'll just say Snake and all his clones in general. I mean, like, he was that good looking to clone them how many times?
Yeah.
That's the thing, you see. Yeah. And like, I don't know. It's like, and again, I am, a cis white male, like, there is no problems in any other sexuality when I say this, but my own preference is heterosexual. So it's not from a very like, I want to jump his bones perspective. But I'm like, whenever there is a game like Metal Gear 3, Metal Gear 4, even like some moments in Metal Gear 5, like when you see whatever incarnation of Snake you're dealing with at that time, it can be old Snake, it can be young Snake, it can be Big Boss, whichever. Like, there is always moments where you're kind of seeing him like, disarmed or whatever, and like his perfectly cut body and all this kind of stuff. And it's just like all the women are swooning or whatever. Like, I don't know. There's just something about it. I don't know. I can appreciate it from afar.
And that voice as well is so. I think we should get a clip for that or something.
Yes.
For the episode. Metal Gear.
It's true, actually. Yeah.
That opening of like Metal Gear Solid 3 was like back in 1960 and the world was split into two. East
that was
and
actually really good.
It's just like that
was
voice,
really good. It's true, and then the Snake Plissken mullet in Metal Gear 2. Like, what can you do? What can you do? Anyway, but that's why I was torn between him, and I was actually going to say Geralt as well. But I think that game Geralt, his sexiness, the allure of that has been diminished somewhat by Henry Cavill's existence. But this is that. So, just to recap, it was Bayonetta, Yennefer, and I'm gonna have to pick one. I suppose it's probably Big Boss. From Metal Gear 3, or Old Snake. I like a guy with grays like myself. Anyway, that in mind. So just throwing it around. So now me and Shane, we're gonna just look at you now, Buzz, and we're gonna say, right, Shane. Even Buzz. Tell me and Shane what your three were again, so that we can kind of converse here.
My tree at number 1 was Miranda Lawson. Number 2, we have Jack, also from Mass Effect, no second name. And in third place, Eva from Metal Gear Solid 3.
Good stuff. Now, Shane, you're not a big Mass Effect guy, so do you know who the first two are?
Not really, no.
Okay.
I can Google them. I can.
Yeah. Whilst you're Googling them, the Miranda character is very much like Mass Effect Yennefer in a lot of ways. Very tight lycra outfit, a lot of ass, a lot of cleave, but a good heart. A rogue with a good heart. Jack, however, is a no-nonsense kind of punk cyber.
Yeah,
punk, I guess,
I'm literally looking at a picture
character
here as we speak. I have Miranda, I have Jack, and who was the third?
The third
it was Eva from Metal Gear 3. The blonde,
sorry.
spy.
The third one wasn't a Mass Effect. Apologies. Yeah, I have Jack and Miranda Lawson here in front of me. I can see both of them. Yeah, you're dead right. Miranda is very much a Yennefer style.
Yennefer in space.
Yeah,
Yennefer in space.
Jack does look like someone more like you'd expect to see in like Cyberpunk or something.
Yeah,
see, I think this could be a complete rumor, but I actually think that Jack's model was kind of based off of Megan Fox.
Really?
I have a feeling I've either read that somewhere or seen it before. I don't know the source, if it holds any truth. And then I kind of saw it whenever Megan Fox kind of shaved her head back in 2012, whatever, or 2013, or whatever year it was. And I was like, damn, yeah, I kind of see it. But yeah, so that's just a little bit of like extra modeling stuff there if you want to give a perception in your head in real life.
That might tip the scales. Shane, I'm going to come out and say my pick is Eva straight away. Like if I had to like objectively say, right, which of those three, like she nearly made my number one. Like she was I had to give it to Snake though.
Well, yeah, no, I'd be inclined to agree with you because like I said, I'm not much of a Mass Effect guy, so I have more of a relationship with Eva, I suppose.
It's
compared to
so it's a relationship thing. So from a sheer objective visual sexiness thing, what would you say? Because like even in that, I'm more on the Eva side.
Yeah, actually, me too. Now that I give myself a quick Google reminder of Eva, and no, me too. I'm more on the. Sorry, Buzz, but you've been outvoted here.
It's not even a vote. It's not even a vote just yet. Like this is very much like we will vote on the last one. Let's say if that works, if you can really do that with 3 things and 3 people. But like, you know, it is up to you. Who do you want to put forward first? But like, this is just our chance to kind of come in and give our opinions and what we would think of your trees. But like the choice for which one of the 3 you're putting forward is completely up to you.
No, of course.
Go with the opinion on our side seems to very much be on Eva. And I guess it's just an aesthetic thing, but it's also, even though Shane hasn't played them, I have. There's just something alluring about Eva, you know what I mean? She's just got it. She's got it. Yes, baby, she's got it.
And she's a badass too, you know. She's got that.
She is.
All 3 of mine, I think, have that little bit of a badass edge to them. Yeah. So.
Yeah, but only one of them can do sick tricks with like a 1950s motorbike and stuff. But Buzz, who are you going to put forward in your top 3?
I will put forward Eva based on the gentleman's.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I put forward.
Now,
very difficult.
Don't put it forward just because we're out here, you know, talking smack. You know, it is whomever you think should be there, and you should convince us if you feel like it shouldn't be that.
All right, okay. Well, then I have to put forward Miranda then, because I have to.
Stick by your guns. You got a fucking mug.
have to stick true to my guns that I've done for the last 11 years. You know, like there's not much more I can say.
That's fair.
Yeah, I would say like personality wise, I mean like. You know, the heart of gold really under a tough exterior, and a beautiful exterior too. Great dress sense, great humor. You know, that dark raven hair. Oh yes, and God, this is cringy, lads.
Would you like a moment alone with our audience? Or anything? Just leave the call.
That mankini's getting very tight,
and that Australian accent too. You know, gosh, that Australian accent.
I'll give you that. No, she definitely is. If I had to pick a character in Mass Effect, I think I would 100% pick Miranda too. She's my type, I guess. But like objectively, I would say as well. Yeah, for sure. Okay. So we have Miranda in this corner. Shane, remind us of your 3 once more, please.
Geralt Rivia, game Geralt, not Henry Cavill Geralt. Sadie Adler from Red Dead Redemption, and Chun-Li from Street Fighter.
Awesome. Buzz, what do you think, man? Of those 3, what jumps out at you, dude?
Yeah, I'm thinking Geralt. Chun-Li never really did it for me, and Sadie Adler, yeah, maybe, but no. Yeah. So I think Geralt for me.
Yeah, Sadie's from Red Dead 2, isn't she? She's like she becomes the cowboy at the end. Yeah, she's like our cow person. She has that kind of rough and tumble, you know, hard ass appeal, I guess.
Yeah.
But I agree, she doesn't like scream sexuality, and I think that's kind of part of her charm, is that she is a strong woman who doesn't scream sexuality, you know, which is lovely, and it stands to her. But yeah, I don't know if that of the 3 there, Chun-Li is interesting. Like that's like splitting the difference between Sadie Adler and Bayonetta right there, where it's just like, no, she has to be a hard ass, she has to be believable, she's not going to show too much skin, but we do want to point out those thick ass thighs and like really, really go down that road. Chun-Li is interesting, but then you've got Geralt of Rivia, who I think ticks all the boxes in terms of is conventionally good looking, I guess. You spend so much time that gets paid off in the long run, like learning about his character and his appeal and his turn-ons and turn-offs and the unicorn and all that type of stuff. It's lovely. I think of the 3 you picked, Geralt is definitely the epitome of sex if you're putting the 3 of them into a ring, like, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, like, I'll be honest, I'm gonna remove Chun-Li straight away, because Chun-Li was on my list as more of a boyhood, coming of age. Look at those thighs.
There's nothing wrong with that, man.
Yeah.
Whatever came to your mind is fucking natural, dude.
That's it. So it is between Sadie and Geralt, and they're similar in a lot of ways. They're very rough and tumble, can look after themselves. Like, I feel like if I lived in a cabin with Sadie, she could go and get me some rabbit for dinner or something by just picking up the rifle and walking out the door. And a strong woman who can take care of herself,
which is sexy in itself.
Yes, exactly. And then, well, Geralt is kind of like the male version, really, except he hunts dragons and which is totally badass and cool. So I think I'm going to go with Geralt, just because I really like fantasy stuff, and he fights dragons and monsters and has a big massive sword.
And he's into unicorns.
Yes.
And if you put Geralt into Souls, any of the Soulsborne games, what would that be like your ultimate fantasy?
Wow, that's the Venn diagram right there.
Yeah.
You got him. You got him.
Geralt working his way down through Anor Londo to fight Ornstein and Smaug.
There has to be a mod out there. There has to be.
Probably. Oh, you probably just mod him. Like, all the crazy stuff that's happening with God of War on PC at the moment, I'm sure someone could just mod him into.
Oh, but not even just like a visual mod, but like literally taking the art and the character and the movements and everything from The Witcher and putting them into Dark Souls in a way that would work. Like, you've got such a range of moves that don't seem out of place. You know what I mean? Anyway, look, that's another topic for another show. So then we're down to me, I guess. And who did I pick again? Bayonetta.
Yeah.
Big Boss.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who I picked for my third.
I think it was Yennefer, was it?
It was Yennefer. Thank you so much.
Yennefer Vengerberg.
That's what it was. And yeah, so I'm going to throw it to you guys first. What do you
think? Well, one of your... did you say Geralt? No, you didn't say Geralt, did you?
I said I nearly said Geralt.
Sorry,
but
yes.
Big Boss topped him.
Because I was just about to say that one of your picks was my top pick, so that would obviously make. But no, you wasn't. Yennefer's a good show. They really are like video game power couple, Yennefer and Geralt, aren't they?
Absolutely,
they're like the
power and grace.
Yeah,
like in one person.
Beyonce and Jay-Z or some shit like that.
the Beyonce and Jay-Z of the dragon fighting world. Yes.
Yeah. And what was it? Bayonetta and Big Boss.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about a man in uniform too, like, you know what I mean?
Do you know when you're in the pause screen and you're like healing his wounds? And he's got the bandages on, but he's ripped as shit,
Yeah.
You're taking heels off him and he's just like, Yeah, there is something
about a man in uniform. No, do you know what? I'm going with Yennefer. I'm going with Yennefer for the power couple.
I can see it. What about you, Buzz?
It's a very tough competition between Big Boss and Yennefer for me. And as we have said before, Miranda's pretty much just Yennefer in space.
This is true. This is true. Fantasy Miranda.
I think I'm gonna go with Fantasy Miranda. Yeah, Yennefer's my vote cast there too.
Yeah, that sounded like an easy competition there. Yeah, for me, it's tough because the objective part of me wants to say Big Boss because it's so subtly played, his sexuality throughout, like even Solid Snake and Dead Snake, whatever he's called in the fifth one, like it's never really like front focus of his sexuality is like put out there, but it's just something about him, god damn it, like that man in uniform and stoicness, and he does it for his country and love of the boss. But at the same time, my heart and my loins ache for Yennefer. So what can a man do? No. But seriously, I think in terms of like sexiest, how much does that weigh? Like, do we weigh whoever we think is genuinely like just front facing sexy higher than somebody who is like smoldering under the surface sexy? Like which, if you put both on a scale, which one is heaviest? It's hard to make that call. I think it's like a razor's edge situation between Big Boss and Yennefer, and I think I'm going to go with Yennefer. I think I am. I think I'm going to go with Yennefer. But like, I have trepidation. I'll wake up in the middle of the night going, "I'm sorry, boss." You know. But
Cobras,
boss, Cobras, big boss, big boss. But yeah, I think. Sorry, audio listeners. I think. I think it's going to be Yennefer for me for sure.
Yeah.
So this is our top 3, okay, and we have to duke it out now for the top. Okay, so this is where the gloves come off, folks. Okay, so we have Miranda, we have Yennefer, and we have. Did you say Geralt?
Geralt, yeah.
Yeah, I went with Geralt in the end. Yeah.
Wow, 2 Witcher characters, and one that's Space Witcher character. So, right, closing argument. Buzz, tell us why Miranda should be the sexiest, and the way we're going to work this is whomever, including if it's your own, gave the best closing argument is who will probably try and cast our votes towards or whatever, you know.
Absolutely, sounds good. Yeah, so I think part of it is that, you know, she's obviously one of the just sexiest characters ever made. You know, she's modeled after an actual actress called Yvonne Strahovski, I think is her name. I can't pronounce it properly, but she's an Australian actress who was in Handmaid's Tale and I think Chuck as well, maybe, or something. A good few things as well. Like, and she's obviously a very attractive woman herself. Weirdly, I think Miranda's better looking. I don't know what that says with me, but yeah, I mean, like, you know, she's just, you know, everything from the accent to her demeanor, her power, her. Just yeah, I mean, like, God, she's in skin tight latex for pretty much the entire thing. I mean, like, it's just, it does things to me, man.
I got it. All right, so that's our argument for Miranda. Jane, do you want to go next or shall I?
I'll go. I think I have decent closing arguments for Geralt. Number 1, a lot of skin tight leather, you know, leather pants.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, tell me more.
Nobody's denying that.
Geralt of Rivia is a man who could, you know, he could go out, he could cut the head off a dragon, take that dragon back to town, trade it in for whatever gold bounty was on its head, and then, like, I don't know, throw you down in the hay while still covered in dragon blood, and you'd love every minute of it.
I can't say you're wrong.
There you go.
It's very true. And what stands out about Geralt to you, especially, like?
I don't know. He just kind of oozes manliness, doesn't he? Like, you know, he's just like, I am man. I kill monsters for money. I am, you know, and he's very like, man. That's
Which
all I got.
Lights
really.
your world on fire.
Hardly so. Yeah, apparently that gets me going. Maybe I need to have a conversation with my fiance.
Maybe you just need to have a more open relationship. Who knows? It's a whole new world after this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, so no, it's a good argument. I think Geralt kind of speaks for himself. Much like Yennefer, I think Yennefer kind of speaks for herself in a lot of ways. In her own game, she is portrayed as like the epitome of beauty, you know, like, and that's done through means of magic. You know, she has done that to herself in order to make herself as powerful as humanly possible, both through the power of her magic, but also the power of persuasion from her looks. You know, the whole lilac and gooseberries thing, you know, she walks into a room and the room falls in love with her. It's all very done on purpose, you know. And Geralt being the only person who can kind of see through the bullshit after being first swooned by that, you know, he's pretty much the only real relationship that's a man that she has. And even women fall at her feet and blah, 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 blah. But for me, what you know attracts me there is, you know, from a looks perspective, of course, is there. You know, you were saying the leather, like, it's the same thing. There's kind of like the bustiers and, you know, tights and all that type of stuff. Like the fashion is on point, let's say. But it's also it's the power, it's the drive for power, it's the commanding tones. She's been alive for something close to like 1,000 years, so you know she's experienced. You know, there is a lot of good reasons here. You know,
I'm gonna get fired after this if anyone sees it. Like, Jesus Christ.
But hey, yeah, like, these are things you got to consider when you think about sex. You know, not whether it's a bad or a good thing. Who knows? But yeah, they're kind of the reasons why I think that, like, she edged out my own selections. You know.
Yeah.
She edged them out.
She aged them out, yes, indeed. But yeah, that is that. So, right, I guess I'm going to have to ask for personal votes, and then I guess if we're just picking our own, is that the best way to do it? Because if we just pick our own things each, how do we settle it?
I think we should not have a vote. We have to exclude ourselves, and we have to vote for one or the other. Two.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. Good idea. Yeah. So who are you liking of the other two? Yeah,
it's got to be Fantasy Yennefer for me anyway.
But you're picking your own thing. Oh, sorry, no, you don't. You're to be space. Sorry.
Fantasy Miranda.
Yeah, Fantasy Yennefer.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going for Yennefer. Okay. Between Miranda and Yennefer, then. Oh. Wait, actually, I'll go first just because I can kind of predict it because you're not a Mass Effect guy. Between Miranda and Geralt, I would like to say Miranda because I personally am more attracted to Miranda, but given my preference, but I have to say there's a reason Henry Cavill is oozing the way he does on that character. It's because it's a built-in sexuality. Like I think Geralt does have that pull, you know, for good reason.
So I'm gonna drop a shocker on you here now.
That's fine.
So based off of me and you, Phil, like I know I can't vote for my own, but me and you, Phil, we give very, I'm gonna say clinical, logical explanations, but Buzz felt Buzz felt it in his soul. Like I could see that on his face. So I have to give it to Miranda for his, like, he sold it. He felt it deep down in his heart, you know.
She's genetically engineered as well, like, you know.
Look, he's still going. He still doesn't stop.
He gave me the side eye for saying that she was experienced from age, and he's talking about genetically engineering for her. But no, absolutely no. It's completely fair, especially if we're going off of arguments. You know, you could see the twinkle in his eye. You know, we merely thought of characters and implanted our opinions and our clinical cynicisms upon them. This man brought a cup to the argument. You know, what are we gonna do about it? I think that's it. So this is episode number 69, and the crowned queen of episode 69, the sexiest character in video games, according to us three white guys in our rooms talking into microphones, is Miranda of Mass Effect 2 and also 3.
Yes, in 3 as well.
Yes. Yeah. 2 and 3, ladies and gentlemen. Ring that thing. Shane, put a picture over here somewhere, and Aaron, if you can play a little voice clip of her, that'll be lovely. But anyway, that has been it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for sticking with us for the entirety of this podcast. I will go around and ask everybody what they're doing at the moment, but first of all, if you want to support the podcast, you can do so in a number of ways. Check the description below for our socials. Follow us at Facebook, the Casual Game Community, on our Instagram and Twitter at Casual Game Co. And, you know, just tell a friend, tell whoever, and we will tell you someone very specific to tell about this podcast at the very end. But before I do that, Shane, I'm assuming the best place to find you is here on this podcast?
Yep, you'll find me here on this podcast doing the Casual Game thing. You'll find me on the Facebook Casual Game Community, chatting sometimes, posting memes or whatever, you know, the usual crack, but mainly right here on this podcast. Right here, look, you can see me.
Memes.
This is me.
Sick
right
memes.
Here. And then some sick memes.
Kieran, my man, where can people find you?
Yes, people can find me again here on this podcast weekly on Thursdays, talking about, you know, who's the sexiest person in the world, which I will constantly bring up as Miranda.
It's going to be a recurring topic every month, every week we talk about it. Yeah. But anything else?
Yeah, of course, yeah. You can follow me on all my socials. It's at CAO Busby on Twitch, Buzz_the BETTV, and of course, you can find Legion Arena, which just launched tonight, and that's kind of why I'm dressed up as well. But just get the cheeky wee plug in there for the new Twitch channel.
Absolutely. Give it a bigger plug by all means. I stopped by to give the support as well, but even I don't know as much as I could know about it. So please, by all means, the floor is yours for a minute or two.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so very, very quickly and briefly, Legion Arena is the home of 3 different brands in Ireland: Legion Esports, Legion Creators, and Legion Collegiate. Esports is obviously a series of tournaments sponsored by a couple of brand sponsors, which I won't say here, but that they really get behind casual esports and getting that grassroots esports up, some of the pro players in Ireland. Then collegiate is very much just esports for colleges, and creators then is their affiliated kind of and partnered streamers and creators in Ireland, and we're going to be doing a lot with them. And do you know what I mean? Like, look, if you want to go follow Legion Arena TT or Legion Arena GG on Twitch, and you'll see what we're up to.
Absolutely wonderful. And congratulations on to you and all the team that worked on that. It seemed to be a massive success. So, well done, and always great to see that, especially here in Ireland. Now, with that, we are going to leave you guys. But as per usual, we have to recommend somebody that you are going to tell about the podcast. First of all, tell your friends. And this is actually a new request I have for everybody. We've always said if you can rate the podcast on your podcatcher of choice. Generally, that's Podcast Addict and Apple Podcasts that allow you to do that. However, Spotify have turned their reviews back on, baby. So if you are listening to this on Spotify, please do pop down, give us 5 stars, and you can say whatever you want after that. You can damn me to the end of the world, but as long as you give us 5 stars, I would love you, whatever. But with that, if you could, tell your local... It's a sexy podcast, so what should we say? I was going to tell you local sex worker, but maybe that's not kosher.
Sex shop.
Perfect. Wherever you get fine wares for sexual activities, go down and tell the manner of the keep about the Casual Gamecast, and maybe you could put up a little poster in the window and we'll get associated. Maybe we'll get a branding deal, who knows. Yeah. But could you imagine the CGC branded dildos? It's a whole thing. It's going to come. Wait, no, rewind. Get out of here. Right, folks, that's it. This has been the Casual Gamecast. Thank you so much for joining us. Stay safe, be careful, and of course, stay casual. Good luck.
You coming to bed, hon?
Yep, honey, I'll be right there. Just gotta turn out the light. Ow! 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 Ah!
Some things never change. Like your kids always leaving tiny toys on the floor for you to step on. And Geico saving folks lots of money on their car insurance.
Sweetie, I think I left the downstairs light on.
Please don't make me go.
15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Socks are the #1 most requested item in homeless shelters. Underwear is the second, shirts are third. At Bombas, socks were first, made with comfortable details for everyday wearing. Then underwear and shirts too, all designed to perfectly fit. At Bombas, every item you purchase means you're donating an essential clothing item to someone in need. One comfortable clothing item for you, one donated to someone in need. Bombas, comfort for all. Get 20% off your purchase at bombas.com/comfy.
Socks are the #1 most requested item at homeless shelters. Underwear second, and shirts are third. At Bombas, socks were first, made with comfortable details for everyday wearing. Then underwear, and shirts too, all designed to perfectly fit. At Bombas, every item you purchase means you're donating an essential clothing item to someone in need. One comfortable clothing item for you, one donated to someone in need. Bombas, comfort for all. Get 20% off your purchase at bombas.com/comfy.
The Triple B Podcast would like to invite you to come break bread with your brothers. If you like what you're hearing on the show, if you think we missed the mark, or if we got it all wrong, reach out to us on social media. We can be reached on Twitter at triple_B_pod, or search Brothers Breaking Bread Podcast. We are the Brothers Breaking Bread on Facebook, and our email is brothersbreakingbreadpod@gmail.com. Further descriptions are in the show notes. Like, follow, friend, do all that good stuff, and please never forget to break bread with your brothers.
How y'all doing? We out here, chilling in the spot. What up? How y'all doing? We out here, chilling in the spot. What up? How y'all doing? We out here, chilling in the spot. How y'all doing? We out here, chilling in the spot. What up?
Brothers Breaking Bread podcast in the house. Hey.
We're having a little pop-up. It'll be good.
Yeah, let's make it happen. Let's not just talk about it. This is a beautiful thing, man. It's all this blackness, and we all just getting together, we playing dominoes, we eating, we drinking, and food is always just the extra, man. They deprive these people of their basic human rights, and we call ourselves Americans. We're supposed to be above all this.
They'll fake the crisis. They'll make it seem way out of proportion.
We brothers, we breaking bread. How y'all doing? We out here, chilling in the spot. What up?
Trying to hold it all together, man. Life is moving fast right now, man. So it's good to have everybody come through. I love that, man. I love it a lot, more than I could say to you guys.
This my last one. I'm gonna get out of y'all if you talk to me any kind of way. I'm sorry, I'm not in the kind of field. Okay, should be. Oh, I should be.
Yeah, that was at a town hall meeting where a black man was talking to a nigga like Mr. Burns, a character from The Simpsons, and he said, "You're not gonna talk to me any kind of way. We're not in a cotton field." And that white man said, "Well, you should be."
You said that was a town hall meeting?
He looked like Justice Stevens from the back.
Ooh.
He does. Yeah, he does.
It says here, is it? Cotton reference in debate. It doesn't show where it's at, but it seems to be everybody's in a nice suit. It looks like.
Yeah.
It's not.
Now, that's my first time seeing it or hearing it. So
yeah,
but I don't know how that gentleman kept his right. I don't know how.
You know why he
stood there and not said anything about that? But could you imagine if, like we was talking about last week, he said that shit to Gary?
Right.
Oh, nigga.
They said you a good white man.
Gary,
be a good white man.
No.
But we use that to transition to we talk about. That's good. Y'all was asking some good questions like, how do we defeat this? How does this keep going on? Well, Florida is doing their part to bury history. That way, all this shit keeps going on. And like this is
keep it spinning.
And so, hold on. I might have my stories here mixed up because it all ties in together. Anyway, well, okay. So anyway, I don't know if y'all heard about the Florida bill where it's being touted as the bill where they say white people, but I guess it's like you can't make anyone feel uncomfortable when talking about these sensitive racial issues, but basically they're trying to make a bill where you can't talk about anything as far as like quote unquote CRT, which we know is not a real, it's not being taught at the high school level. They want niggas to be done with civil rights, talking about civil rights, the history of Florida, which as up until 1960, 70, still had sundown towns. Let's keep it real. For the most part, there was a large part there where more than Georgia, more than the Carolinas, more than Mississippi, more niggas were being lynched there in Florida than a lot of those other southern states. Let's keep it real. Anyway, Florida School District cancels professor's civil rights lecture over critical race theory concerns. And I wish I had the sound bites from this professor. He is seems pretty. He was on the Dan Lebertar show talking about this today, and it really was a discussion about civil rights, the history of civil rights in Florida, and a lot of things that just I don't know, because of course this shit don't get taught in high school, especially when you go to Blue Valley North. They're not talking about a lot of these. No. And for y'all that don't know, Blue Valley North, South Overland Park. When I went there in 1995, I was the only black male in my high school graduating class. So they're not talking about none of that shit, right? But J. Michael Butler, history professor at Flagler College in St. Augustine, was scheduled to give a presentation Saturday to Osceola. What is that? Yeah, I'll be fucking up. County school district teachers called the Long Civil Rights Movement, which postulates the civil rights movement preceded and postdated Martin Luther King Jr. by decades. He said he was shocked to learn why the seminar had been canceled through an email Wednesday, but that he wasn't surprised because educators feel increasingly intimidated over teaching about race. We talked about the Supreme Court. We got two Ruben do educating too, but we got two educators here also. And on the Dan Lebertar show, it made me think about you, Joe, and Lady Lavender. They were talking about like how some educators, especially in Florida, that's where they were coming from, had this fear of just teaching about history now. You know, not even the CRT bullshit that we've been pumping through the airways, but just basic history of Florida, basic history of the South, civil rights movement. There are a lot of teachers out there because, like, nigga, they talking about putting cameras in classrooms and cameras on teachers and, you know what I'm saying, like some real new age Nazi shit, bruh. So, what say y'all? I know y'all been following this shit, and I know Joe had a great T-shirt on his Facebook page. Love it. But anyway, what have y'all? What say y'all?
Ida and I have been talking, sharing, notes as far as lesson plans and that type of thing. Thank you very much, Ida. I plan on going through some of that and utilizing it. I think we're both blessed to be in urban centers.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Where I think we're encouraged to go ahead and tell the truth. We had an episode last year called a la carte history, and I think that's what we're experiencing here is that you've got the right wing that only wants to do the things that they feel like grabbing off the buffet, and they're leaving other facts. Like this is history. You know what I'm saying? Critical race theory, this is history. We're telling the story, and we're telling our part of the story, and we are African Americans or Latino Americans. We are part of America. We are Americans. And this is our story, and it needs to be told just like everybody else's story. And to take it out of the frame of reference of what we're going to speak on is to tell history teachers not to teach history.
Mm-hmm.
And so, go ahead, sir.
Well, what I was going to say is the history of America is deeply rooted in racism. Well, racism is a part of the history, and that's the part that white people, I would say, is the most uncomfortable with. They don't want to deal with the fact that racism is a problem, has been a problem since, the birth of this nation, and will continue to be a problem until you actually sit down and confront the problem and deal with it.
And to piggyback on that, I don't know who said, I'm paraphrasing, but it's like not just the history of this nation, but the history of just humanity within itself, right? If you are reading history and you're not uncomfortable, you are reading propaganda.
Mm-hmm. Well, hey, I have a question though, like to the educators, and you said something in that article that kind of stirred my thoughts. Like I've heard all the things about not wanting to make people feel uncomfortable in teaching critical race theory, and not wanting to make people feel bad about the past and what has happened in the past. But a word you used now was fear. And so for me, I know you guys are in schools and you guys are actually kind of have a better pulse on what the school situation is like with that. What is the fear now? What is that? Because that's a big word to use, like fear, scared, intimidation. What is the fear that teaching critical race theory is going to stem? Like, I
think here's what it is, and I'm a former high school teacher and former high school administrator, assistant principal. It's the parents,
mm-hmm.
right? It's topsy-turvy now, right? We're catering, and my wife teaches 8th grade science, so it's the opposite of when we were growing up. Not to sound like an old man yelling on my front yard, but the word of the teacher, which wasn't always great either, because was what mattered. And now you get one pissed off parent who's going to show up at a school board meeting because they don't know. And I saw some of it as an administrator, right? When we'd be teaching, say, and it wasn't me, but one of my English teachers, right, would be teaching a book like Bless Me Ultima or something like that. It's got a little bit of pre-colonial Santeria type stuff in it, you know. And you'd have evangelical parents that would show up and say, why are you even talking about this in my class? You know, well, it's a fiction book, one, right? And what is the problem with showing the kids that there are different ways of worshiping, or that there is a cultural significance to this kind of thing, whatever, right? So I think they were doing a project for like Dia de los Muertos or something like that, right? For the Day of the Dead. Mm-hmm. And so you have these parents that be upset, right? And that's the fear, is that one of these parents is going to show up at the superintendent's door or at the principal's door, or, God help us, use their 3 minutes at a school board meeting at the front of the meeting, you know, to spout crazy stuff. Right, and what do? Joe, you know this. You know, the best thing you want, the only thing you want sometimes when you're a teacher is for your administration to back you up.
Yep.
Right, that's it. Just back me up. Because I was on both sides of that. You know, and just back me up. The parent comes in, I just need your support. You know what I mean? And now these parents are getting so noisy that administrators are not backing up teachers in the classroom, right? And my wife goes through it all the time. And it's unfortunate and it's a shame, but that's where the fear is, you know?
Well, I think it even goes deeper than that, Ruben, because that's the fear being presented within the schools, but it goes to the parents at home. And parents at home have this enormous fear that their children are going to be tainted just because they hear these things. These are the same type of parents a lot of times who feel like, I can't have my kids see a gay person on TV because they're going to become gay just by seeing a gay person. And they feel that if my kids hear that some white person in some other time period of history did bad things, they're going to think all white people are bad. Or if they hear that something bad happened in the United States, they're going to think that all of the United States is bad. And so because of that, that's when they go to the school and like do these toddler tantrums at school boards.
And the right has been really successful. They've got these buzzwords, right? These keywords. And for like the past 10 years, what we've heard is they're indoctrinating your children, right? These liberal universities are indoctrinating your children. These public schools that your tax dollars are paying for are indoctrinating your children into thinking that all white people are bad, right? It's like, spend 45 minutes in the classroom and you'll see, right? That's not the case at all, right? These are facts. But you're right. I mean, I think that's what it is the fear of the power structure, right? It's the same reason why they're complaining that a woman is all of a sudden white men who have had 95% of the Supreme Court positions throughout history now are going to feel unrepresented on the Supreme Court. You know what I mean? It goes back to the same thing. You're right. That's a deeper fear of losing the power balance.
So does that mean that I feel like that means that you are going in the right direction. You know what I'm saying? When you start hearing the loudest resistance and the loudest feedback in a negative way. So, I mean, I think that's just a necessary evil, man. You just got to eventually, that has to be pushed through.
Yeah. But the issue is that the issue is that it is moving in the right direction because we are being able to teach accurate history and more fuller parts of history in our classes, but because of these parents coming in and because they are having all of these explosions and protests and banning books that don't even need to be banned, we're not able to move all the way forward because then those teachers are asked to leave or those principals are asked to leave and superintendents are asked to leave and teachers are told that they can and cannot teach.
Yeah, so like as teachers, you got to abide by whatever rules and regulations, you know what I'm saying, that are set there for you. When I'm saying push through, I'm more talking about in a cultural and a political way, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, if we weren't hitting on the sore spot, if we weren't hitting on the weakness, you know what I'm saying, then they really wouldn't be making, if it was shit that really didn't matter, then they wouldn't be making this big of a fuss about it. You know what I'm saying? So this is some shit, because they have an interest to protect. You know what I'm saying?
It's hitting nerves, for sure.
Right, exactly.
It's
hitting nerves.
It's hitting nerves. And that's why representation matters, right? It's we go back to that. Look at some of the stuff that the Supreme Court is allowing. You know, just this past week, they're going to strike down, right, admittance policies in North Carolina and at Harvard. You know, that account for diversity, right?
Yeah, and never mind all the legacy applications and the bits that they allow.
Right.
But that's not being held to standard. Because once again,
and that's why
black
all
and
of this
brown
stuff
people can't be there. My bad, Ruben. My bad.
And you're right.
When I heard that, I got mad.
That's, you know, that is why it's important too, you know, with what's going on with the Supreme Court situation, man, because as you said, you know, these cases, you know, they eventually may make it up to a Supreme Court for a Supreme Court ruling, you know what I mean? So especially with what's going on in the schools as far as what can be taught and what can't be taught, what books, you know, can be read or discussed and whatnot, you know, so yeah, man. I mean, you know, so that's what I'm saying. I think it's just a matter of, it's not going, motherfuckers ain't just going to lay down. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
I was going to say there's an expression out there in the black community that a hit dog will holler.
I love it. That's one of my favorite things to say.
Right.
These folks are hollering because, you know what I'm saying, we've been striking at the heart of the issues and trying, again, teaching the real history that has been buried for years, that was not taught at Blue Valley North. You know what I'm saying? In some other places around the country. It's time for everybody to hear that history, but now it hurts my feelings. Right. So now they holler.
And think about how weak of a fucking argument that is, dog.
How have our feelings felt in all of these years of this country's existence when we've had to learn history, all types of minorities, whether it's racial or able-bodied or anything else, because all you ever hear about is like able-bodied white men and some women, and that's it. And everything else is like slavery. That's all you basically learn in school. So how does that make black people feel?
Slavery.
One of those things, I was going to say, one of those things I think, and Roger kind of alluded to it last week, is the old guard, right? So they see that they're losing control. And they see that the old way of thinking and their ship is going down. And so with that, you know, and you can relay it back to, you know, situations in life, when people feel like, or a person or someone feels like they're losing control, they go through desperate measures to try to gain that control back. And so for me, I kind of feel like that's where we're at with the critical race theory too, is that they feel like if we don't do something about this immediately and try to change, or like Ruben said, you know, indoctrinate a different way of thinking about this rather than the real way of thinking about this, then we're going to absolutely lose control. And what we thought we've always had will immediately go away, and we will lose we will lose the entire handle on what we thought we had in this country. Because we have a lot of people who are, quote unquote, waking up and understanding that we have been, you know, we've been sheltered and taught bullshit. And now people's eyes are opening to what the bullshit actually really is. And so I think another part of it is that loss of control and that feel of desperation is like, we've got to do something now. And this is something we can start at in the schools at a very young age. We can show them that it's okay, you know, not to, we don't want to make everybody feel bad. We don't want people to feel bad for the sins of your father, but the sins of your father, you're going to have to pay for it. Like, that's just a part of life. Like, you're gonna have to pay for the sins of the father or the sins of the mother, because that's why you are where you are now.
Yeah, I mean, I put it this. I mean,
like, there is an inheritance tax, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, and they trying to get rid of that too. And I think about it this way, man. Like, before Trump, when Trump first said, when they were on stage with 100 Republicans going for the nomination, niggas was partying, motherfuckers was he-heing. This should have never happened. And it went from 100 to 50 to 20 to 10, and that nigga was still there. And motherfuckers was still like, no way, no way. And here we are, that motherfucker's here. You know what I'm saying? and he's been president. And then now here we are post that, and now these motherfuckers are like, well, what else can we do? And motherfuckers are saying, ain't no way they gonna stop us from teaching the history of this country. And here you have a governor, you have a governor of a state supporting and pushing the bill where teachers, and also we got another clip here, because we talked about motherfuckers wanting to monitor people. Motherfuckers want, well, that's a special agency to monitor elections, but also the same state, they want to monitor teachers and what they're teaching in classrooms. You know what I'm saying? So it's, when we talk about the fear, that's why AC made me think about it. The fear is, you're talking about asking teachers to give up their livelihood. That's what's going to come down to if we're not careful. You don't have.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, Ruben, before you go in, I want to ask you a question. Where's the lawsuit? Where's the lawsuit here? Like, somebody's got to be able to take this thing up through, you know what I'm saying, the federal court system, the appeals court, and say this got to be unconstitutional.
It got to be. I hope it is.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of First Amendment implications. As you all know, neither students nor teachers have complete First Amendment freedoms in a school building. Right. But for sure, this is something that could get challenged if and when it does get implemented, right?
Is there states' rights involved too?
Is there what?
States' rights involved in that too. Would that be an issue? Or could it be an issue?
Could be. It's an impediment. I think it's an impediment. Yeah.
And for sure that. I don't know how strong teachers unions are in Florida. I know we don't have real powerful unions here in Texas, but you can see the teachers unions kind of banding behind this and challenging it. And here's a problem, Joe, and this is why, sorry to take it back, but this is why Supreme Court picks matter, right? Because where are you going to end up?
Supreme Court,
right? And everyone in Texas, for example, knows, if you're going to challenge a state policy that's, that 30 years ago would have been declared facially, on its face, constitutionally invalid because of the disparate impact it's having on a minority population, it ain't like that anymore. You're going to bump up against the Fifth Court of Appeals, which is one of the most conservative courts in the country, and if you can get past that, you've got the 6-3 supermajority. That's going to be hard.
But Ruben, as you said, the Warren Court was put in by Eisenhower, a Republican, a conservative president, and it became one of the most liberal courts ever. I'm wondering if this doesn't get to the court and the people, I don't know. That's what Stevens was talking about, that when you're on that court, you're a judge, and you're a judge of all the people. And if this case makes it to the court, if two of the, maybe a Roberts or, whoever else, look at this thing and say, you know what, we can't do this because this is a clear violation of said statute, it be that freedom of speech or, whatever it be.
We kind of had a shot for a while. I mean, Roberts has actually turned out to be okay. I think, Chief Justice Roberts is one of those guys that just, when he was nominated by Bush, there were some real questions, but he has really taken his role as the Chief Justice very seriously and has sided not always with the right wing of the court. And then, of course, we had Justice Kennedy, who was a swing vote a lot. Now, some of these new folks that have come in, especially Kavanaugh, Barrett, and even Clarence Thomas, who's been there a long time, are so just ideologically unmovable that it's hard to see where that kind of, togetherness is going to come from. You know what I mean? So, it's really kind of on a place-to-place basis, in some of the bluer northern states, this wouldn't ever fly, and of course down here, the governor in Texas saw that shit from Florida and said, hold my beer, watch this, right? Talk about Nazi policies. That motherfucker said, I want you to go through every school library in the state.
Yeah.
and find me books that might be offensive, essentially, to white people.
Yeah,
right.
and like in bringing this story up and like talking about it. Hey, I'm selfish. I got. When I hear this shit, you can't. I know Josh Hawley and all these motherfuckers got they binoculars looking down there over at motherfucking at Florida. I got two people on the show who I love who are educators. I got children who are being educated in the state of Missouri. So I know this shit down there in Florida. And now knowing that your wife's an educator, Ruben, I know people who I know, like, and love. This shit's going to affect them if this shit just continues to roll the way it's rolling right now. So yeah, I'm very selfish and biased when I talk about this, because like I know it fucks with people who I care about in my children's livelihood and how they gonna learn to be educated. Man, this shit is crazy.
Yep.
So, I mean, we talked about it. You know, let's let a brother who is at the heart of the debate. It's an 8-minute clip. He pretty much gets his feelings out in the first minute. This is Representative Raymond Alexander talking down in Florida after this quote unquote white discomfort bill gets passed.
Debate was actually offensive, and you know, I'm really sick of this stuff, you know. And it takes a lot to even mentally prepare to participate in this type of situation. You know, I woke up this morning early just to attempt to spiritually prepare myself. And so I hear about guilt and feeling a certain type of way. But you can only imagine how I feel just reading the bill. We can talk about subjectivity, we can talk about objectivity, but when it's all said and done, and I'm going to say this as professionally that I can, y'all got to find another way to communicate to your base.
Boom. Anyway, we can keep moving. He got his point across. Stop talking to your base. Go ahead, John.
You got the fucking white discomfort with the snowflake emoji behind it.
Yes, sir.
And like when we started talking about it, I think Ada alluded to it, you know, that this is going to make some people uncomfortable. What about the fact that we still have plantations on our money?
What about
like Monticello is still on the nickel?
Yes.
Right. Who the fuck, like, we not getting offended by that shit?
Right.
Like, I don't understand.
Mount Rushmore is a monument to slave owners? I don't. I mean, nigga, but you can't, but like right now, you're debating in Florida if you can even bring that fucking fact up, bro. Mm-hmm. That's the debate. Exactly. That's where we at, nigga. I mean, I know you know it, and everybody on the show knows. So we saying it for the audience, but like, that's where we at. What the fuck?
And that was gonna be my next statement, bro. Like what Joe was saying, like how many people actually even are aware of that fact?
I don't.
Like how many people even know that?
And that's what's scary, though, right? Like I brought it up on this show before. I was the only black male in my nursing class. There was another black female. And I took for granted, like, the education that my parents gave me outside the classroom. The topic of the Tuskegee experiment was brought up. I was the only person who knew about it outside of my teacher. And there was another black woman in the fucking classroom. And we're not talking about a class of 10. We're talking about at that point in time before people started failing, we're talking about a class of 50 nursing students. I was the only motherfucker who knew what the Tuskegee experiment was. Education and teaching about the ugliness of this country is fucking essential. It's essential. It makes me upset when I talk to people and they don't know. Like we like oh my God, there's the Oklahoma the Tulsa City bombing on Watchmen. Did that really happen? Yeah, it happened, motherfucker.
Yeah.
The massacre of Black Wall Street is what I call it.
It didn't happen 200 years ago either, nigga.
1929.
Oh, but you know when Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue, but you don't know when they was dropping bombs on black people in motherfucking Oklahoma. Anyway, let me destroy my soapbox so we can keep fucking going on. Hey, guess what, y'all? Teachers are mad. We talked about this. Some 200 Missouri and Kansas superintendents may quit amid COVID turmoil. Hostile parents. Thank y'all for the great segue.
Yes.
Superintendent Mark Snow was already thinking about retiring after 30 years as an educator, but his last 2 years of navigating COVID-19 shutdowns and this should have been in all caps, parental hostility over mask wearing and curriculum left him with no doubt that it was time to go. I'm not going to lie, said Snow, who heads the Grain Valley School District. The hostile environment made it a lot easier to write my letter. I know that motherfucker was just one word, bye. But that's crazy. It's crazy. Like 30 years, all the bullshit he's seen in the last 2 years is what's broke this man.
Yeah. It took 2 years of bullshit to break him.
And I don't know.
It's probably the blatant disregard for I know you guys as teachers see it every day. Just the blatant disregard of what you guys have to deal with every day, not just dealing with other people's kids, but dealing with their parents and then dealing with their parents' opinions of what they think a school setting should look like. And then, their disregard for, the whole mask thing is ridiculous to begin with itself. Like, the whole idea that you're infringing upon my rights because I want you to help us protect everybody. That shit is crazy. So, I mean, just the disregard for what these people do every day and what these educators deal with every day, I would imagine he would just, flip him the bird and be like, fuck y'all, I'm out of here. I'm done with this shit. Fuck this shit.
We found something out, AC, all these last 2 years. We figured out that a lot of people think public education is a daycare. Not a place where you send your child to learn from a trusted, educated individual. A lot of motherfuckers think middle school, elementary, high school is a goddamn daycare. And we the last 2 years we found that fucking out.
Wow.
See, don't forget. I was say you said trusted. Don't forget credential.
My bad. Credential. That's a better word. Thank you, bro.
Certified.
Credential, certified, trusted, underpaid. Hold on. Let's add underpaid, not respected.
Very underpaid.
I mean, nigga, a book of words can go to that.
Yeah. Well, I bet it opened a lot of these motherfucking parents' eyes when they had to deal with this shit themselves. And had to try, and like, oh, we can't send them nowhere, and they got to sit here, and we actually have to help educate them and help make sure they stay on top of their shit. Yeah, you got to understand that you're not just paying somebody to babysit your child. You're actually paying somebody because just like us, when we go to work 8, 9, 10 hours, however many hours we work per day, you are entrusting these people with the development of your child. And I don't think a lot of people were able to actually physically see that until they asses had to stay at home and watch them, try to handle what these educators deal with on a daily basis, 5 days a week for 8 hours a day. You know what I mean?
And that's just the 8 hours there with the kids.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
Because I know, you'd think my wife was the lawyer, the way the work goes at home. You know what I mean? Now I look over, it's 11:30 midnight. She's still working on lesson plans. She's still cutting stuff out. She's still putting her Google Classroom together. I'm like, damn, I mean, I've got my day's done, and her day, after dinner, there's a whole nother shift for her,
Yep.
to prep for the following day.
Exactly.
That's crazy. That's crazy. See.
Yeah, man. Like yeah. Salute.
That's dedication.
Yeah, that's why whenever we have shows, we talk about education. It's always respect, man, because it's people don't understand. Yo, little Billy, little Bobby, Karen, all them mouth breathing motherfuckers. Matter of fact, put a mask on them, because some of y'all don't make y'all kids brush their teeth, so the mask is probably helping. Right. Outside of COVID, but yeah, man, your kids ain't shit, cause you ain't shit. And here we are.
So the one thing go ahead.
No, I'm done, dog. But go ahead.
So what I was gonna say is the one good thing that COVID has really taught us, especially people who have at least common sense, has taught us how fucked up the human race is. You know, you have on one end you have people who wants to be safe, who wants to follow the rules, who wants to do the right thing to, you know, at least deal with this situation at hand. And then at the other spectrum, you have the people that is ready to get back to normal, to their normal lives and everything like that without following the rules and succumbing to the consequences of,
Man,
you know.
fuck all that. It's a fucking mask. Put it on, bro. We ain't asking you to fucking. We ain't asking you to put a 50-pound vest on. We ain't asking you to fucking go out and pick cotton. We ain't asking you to, after you leave your place of employment, to go to another town because this is a goddamn sundown town, nigga. Put a fucking mask on, bro. We asking you to put a fucking cloth on. Half you motherfuckers out there eating booty holes and dirty pussy and sucking unclean dicks. You can put a mask on, dog. It's that simple. It's really that goddamn simple. Put a mask on. We ain't that. You want to get vaccinated? That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Shout out to all the unclean dick suckers out there.
Yeah, all the unclean dick suckers. Shout out to you. You are underappreciated. You know what I'm saying?
That's really disgusting.
Yeah, somebody almost threw up on the show. But the end of the day is
make the world go round.
I'm just saying, dog. Like we in a society where we babying motherfuckers so much, dog. It's like we got to the point where we went from everybody get vaccinated to just put a cloth over your fucking face. That's all we asking you to do, dog.
Yep. Hey, but you know how it works, man. Everybody gets a fucking medal. So
you can get a medal. You know what?
Can you imagine these people around when they were handing out polio vaccines?
Man, we would still have polio, dog. Niggas would still be fucked up. We would all be in them big ass vaccines. We all be in them big ass iron lungs right now, dog.
Right. Yeah.
Damn.
It does show how it does. You said it shows how, you know, fucked up the human race is, but just to take it a step further, it shows how selfish and uneducated and uninformed a lot of these motherfuckers are, man.
True.
It's true. Y'all know what time it is. Thanos is right. Hey, before we move on though, here is a nursery of coons with a slave master. Say no more. And I still think that's Brian Pumper. I don't care what y'all say. No one has said it's not. Hey, dog. Hey. You know what? Let's do some what if. Let's imagine if that was Barack Obama at his house with a picture of him shaking hands with Kim Jong-un. They burned this motherfucking planet down. Anyway, fuck them. All right, moving on. Racist text message. What? Somebody say something? Anyway, racist text messages from the racist who killed Ahmaud Arbery, my bad. I'm shocked and surprised that they would have racist text messages.
Men convicted of murdering Ahmaud Arbery are in federal court today to face hate crime charges. Travis McMichael,
You know what? I knew it wasn't just me. These niggas spelled his name wrong in this motherfucking subtext. God damn it.
Father Greg and their neighbor William Roddy Bryan were sentenced to life in prison last month for the February 2020 killing. Federal prosecutors want to introduce text messages that they say show Bryan's hostility toward African Americans. His attorneys want to keep an eye out, saying they are, quote, highly inflammatory and would create some bias amongst jurors. First Coast News is, of course, inside of that courtroom today, and we will keep you up to date on the very latest from Brunswick. But unlike in the state murder cases, cameras are not allowed inside of federal court. Jury will begin in this case.
We can't allow the bias that these white men had against this black man to introduce bias into their court hearing. Or I guess their sentencing. My bad. Don't do that.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
We declared in 2020, I think it was, or towards the end of 2020, that Georgia was the asshole of America.
We did.
For that year.
We did. That year.
I think Georgia bounced back hard in 21.
Came back hard.
They bounced back real hard in 21. So
yes, they did.
We in 22, but we didn't do it in the year in the wars. What was the asshole of America in 2021?
Damn, good question.
It might be.
I don't know who the asshole is, but I go back to what I was watching, a Patton Oswalt comedy show. That motherfucker said Florida is America's dick. It is America's defeat dick.
Florida continues to work hard underneath the veil of justice.
I might say Texas might have done it last year. They had that last year. What was it, February? This time, I think it was this week last year. The snowstorm that wasn't really a snowstorm that knocked shit out. You had all the vaccine stuff, virus
Texas
stuff last year.
So you gonna open those wounds? That's what y'all doing? Y'all gonna open those wounds?
Sorry.
Yeah.
But it happened in 21, man.
Because we had our law race theory, and then they refused to shovel the fucking snow, and all the power went out. Texas might be it. That's a good
and all
call.
the Democrats left, where they left the state trying to hold up the vote on the really restrictive voter ID laws that were passed anyway.
And then you gerrymandered the motherfucker too.
Hold on though. Hold on.
But Texas got Joe Rogan though, man. So that make it all good.
No.
Oh, they don't make it all good.
Wow. Because I was about to say why.
And Joe Rogan in Florida? He's in Florida.
No, Texas, Austin, Texas.
But hold on though. While not a state, it's a district. They allowed a bunch of white people to come in, fuck up all their shit, and leave without being arrested.
You said what now?
DC, the Capitol building. They allow a bunch of white people to come in, storm their shit, fuck everything up, and no one got arrested.
Right.
That's true.
Well,
they got 30 days.
So maybe America's the asshole of America.
I'm just saying.
Hey, Triple B's coming for you.
It might be the black eye, man. I don't
the
think
black eye. The black eye. They were stomping out. They were stomping out the Capitol Police on TV.
I'm not putting that on DC though. That wasn't the mayor of DC. That wasn't, you know what I'm saying? That was.
That's why I say
it's not being an asshole.
I don't know, bro. That's asshole. Like that is a. Like I'm like if you say yeah, man, white people come here sometime, they just break shit and leave. I'm like I'm not coming to your district, bro. No, I feel you though. No, Texas did. They did show their ass. It was like people dying. And they were like, we can't help you.
And Ted Cruz went on vacation.
And Ted Cruz tried to go to Cancun.
Ted Cruz said bye.
And the only reason why he came back is he got caught on camera, nigga. Oh shit.
That's a good call. Texas
By his daughter.
Yeah, his daughter don't fuck with him.
His daughter snitched on his ass.
This is sad. Family of Pennsylvania black man calls his death a modern day lynching. Peter Bernardo Spencer was only. First of all,
right there.
I don't try to blame the victim, but as I said in the chat group, like when my wife and I'm saying when my white friends invite me places.
I'm just reading the caption. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, when my white friends invite me places, I usually ask where y'all going, and if I feel like I'm gonna be the only nigga there. I'm like, I ain't gonna be able to make it.
I mean, that's gotta be clue number one. You know what I mean? That's gotta be Come on now.
Not only is the only black person, he's going camping.
Camping.
It's like all the things that you don't do as a black person.
As a black man.
Because if you seen Deliverance,
The four major red flags. The four major red flags.
He was Jamaican, man.
And that's the problem. Nobody tells that.
he said, "Mama Clots, they won't kill me. Everything will be Irish."
Nobody told us about the four major red flags somebody should told this nigga about. The four major red flags somebody should told this nigga about is A, it's white people. B, there's gonna be alcohol. C, there's gonna be guns. And D, it's gonna be in the woods. Nigga, that's a cock.
Well, hold on. You forgot about D. You gonna be the only nigga there.
Yeah,
nigga, that is literally the first 10 minutes of your best horror movie.
I'm saying it's Deliverance. It's Deliverance, bro.
This is the scariest Deliverance ever, because in this version of Deliverance, motherfucking Burt Reynolds and everybody try to find this nigga still trying to escape.
Yeah.
It's gonna be way worse. Even the hillbillies gonna be trying to find this nigga. Okay. So the family of Pittsburgh black man who was fatally shot 9 times while on the camping trip a month ago in rural Pennsylvania.
In the back.
Yeah. Has voiced frustration with handling of their son's death by authorities and have called his death a modern-day lynching, according to NBC News. Pierre Bernardo Spencer, a 29-year-old black man, was shot multiple times on December 12th at a residence in Rockland Township, Pennsylvania. Spencer was invited on a trip by a former co-worker. Well, if he's dead, I guess he is former. And was the only black man on the trip. Sorry.
Just like the former Delta president.
Yeah, my bad. I had to do it. Yeah, like this, my bad. This is really this shit is like that young boy, the young boy they found a couple years ago, rolled up in that fucking wrestling mat in a gym, and they said he rolled himself up into the mat. This is what this smells of, bro.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. He rolled himself up while he was dead. Rolled himself up into the wrestling mat.
Yeah, so they saying this brother, there was like drugs, multiple firearms, controlled substances, other items were seized on the scene. An autopsy was completed on December 14th. The findings are pending toxicology and laboratory results. I mean, we'll keep an eye on this, but I'm sure they're gonna.
The nigga got shot back 9 times. And none of them motherfuckers know anything about it.
No one knows anything.
Nobody knows shit.
He just fell.
Nigga,
they said we.
Did you see they were? It said right there they were released after consultation with the district attorney.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's something we learned from the Ahmaud Arbery case, right?
Indeed.
Yeah.
Is that first level district attorney? Those positions are local as hell, man. I mean, you can't ever trust that.
Yeah.
Shit, they probably in the same poker game.
Same poker game. Did I don't know. We were all sleeping, then we heard "Bummer Clot," and we woke up. He was dead.
All right, man. If a tree falls in the woods and nobody sees it, did it really fall? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, dog. This shit is crazy though, dog. Shot 9 times in the back, and then as Ruben pointed out, consulted with the DA, and everybody went home.
Everybody went home safe.
Everybody went to the house.
Back to their life.
I mean, it's time for that. A time to kill moment where it's just flipped around. Now imagine he was white and everybody was black.
I mean, this sounds like a movie where you take a nigga out in the woods and release him, and that motherfucker becomes a game.
Wasn't that movie? Was it Trespass?
That's Ice-T.
Yeah,
that's the movie with Ice-T.
Yeah, Trespass. Is that Trespass? Out of the game. My bad. Out of the game. Yeah.
Yeah.
They captured that nigga and let him go free, and it was basically a bunch of white men chasing him down for an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, at least they're not buying them hamburgers anymore. You know what I mean? They bought Dylan Roof some Burger King. So.
Oh my God, I hate it here.
I mean, at least they're not taking him out to dinner anymore. Shit.
Hey, you pieces of shit in Florida. This is the reason why we gotta talk about lynching and race, because this shit's still happening.
Yeah. That was Florida.
No, this ain't Florida. This is Pennsylvania. But I'm saying I'm shitting it down to Florida, saying this is the reason why these talks must happen.
How about taking Florida out to a head start in 2022, man?
Oh I hate everybody.
A big head start.
You know who's out to a bigger head start? Houston.
Well played. Well played transition.
I couldn't help it. Since January 23, additional murders have taken place in Houston. According to HPD, there have been 41 homicides through the morning of January 25th. Y'all niggas
it's up to 46 now, sir.
Wow, y'all putting in work. Y'all niggas need to take a nap.
4 more days. So that's like.
We still got 4 more days
That
left.
doesn't even make any sense, bro.
That's that fucking inflation.
It's the price of wood.
They got inflation murder numbers. It's really only 10, but because of inflation, they had to adjust it.
Murders don't get to as much as they used to. You know what I mean?
Oh my God!
Don't as much as they used to.
This man. Oh my
Hey,
God.
you know when you laughing at niggas get shot in the parking lot of the Shell station, that's what Houston is, bro.
Yeah, that's what we do. That's what we do.
By the
here.
way,
that's what we do here.
Since we're talking about Houston, shout out to Harris County Judge Lena Santos. Look her up.
Right. For sure.
She's a cutie, man.
Oh, shout out.
Representative.
I love it.
Can she go into court?
In Texas, we call them constitutional county judges. So she's like the head of the county, basically.
Okay.
I'm
trying to get Joe Biden to recognize her and get that nomination, man.
Joe?
I don't know if she's a lawyer or not.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Fuck it. So we just shouting out people. Shout out to Sylvia Winston, Duke Law School graduate. Put her on the bench. There we go.
Shout out.
Oh shit! Oh my God, this is all bad. Georgia pastor wife arrested after 8 found locked in basement.
God damn.
What's the date on this?
Georgia.
January 27th.
Says
Okay.
you cannot outdo us.
A Georgia pastor and wife were arrested and charged. The police found 8 people locked in the basement of their home, according to NBC News. Curtis Bankston and his wife, Sophia Sim Bankston, were charged with false imprisonment. The police learned the people in the basement had mental and physical disabilities and were essentially imprisoned against their will, which created an extreme hazard as the individuals could not exist. Exit the residence. No, so they spelled that all wrong. Exit the residence if there was an emergency. So basically, they were like, yeah, it's bad that y'all had people who were disabled in the basement, but because they couldn't leave on their own free will, that's the reason why we got to arrest you, not because you kept them as slaves. Police called out the couple's abuse of power as religious if both frightening and disgusting to see the degree to which the individuals have been taken advantage of by people who were in the position of trust, police said in a statement. Yeah, this is all bad. You shouldn't be locking people in your basement. Amen. I think this is from 10's neck of the woods. Hollygrove shootout injuries. Hollygrove shootout injures bystanders near soccer field where children were playing. Come on, y'all. We got to do better. Let the babies play soccer.
Yeah. So, I mean, the babies, they're out, just typical day, soccer practice and everything like that. And all of a sudden there's a shootout.
Did they say why? Do you know why?
They didn't say exactly why.
Not there's a good reason.
Yeah. There's never a good reason for a shootout, but anyway.
I mean, it might be a good reason.
They need you back home, Lil Wayne.
Yeah.
So there was reports of one car was struck with more than 60 bullets.
Yeah, they said 60 shots were fired, and there are more than 100 little girls in nearby practicing soccer, man. So that's bad, man. Come on. Let's do better, y'all. Everybody.
Sit in the asteroid, please.
Yeah. Here's some video of, this is Clayton Looney, a professor at the University of Montana, calling his biracial daughter the N-word. I love you, Daddy.
Hi. Hey, what's up, Gooby? What's up? What's up, my little smoking nigga?
What?
What?
Little nigga, huh?
Wow.
Once again, Florida. This is
He
why.
got caught on a Ring doorbell. Oh shit!
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, little nigga. Nigga.
He ain't safe nowhere no more.
Hey, speaking of not safe, hold on, y'all. If you ever come to Kansas City and you in a truck that is higher, what is it, 10 feet, 11 feet?
12 feet.
12 feet.
12-foot bridge. It's the bridge on Independence Avenue.
Independence
It's
Avenue.
right by where I go. It's right where I go shopping for groceries. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Do not test the bridge. It's unfucking defeated.
No, we yeah. You can go there.
You can go there
if you got a CDL. If you want to keep that CDL, do not go down Independence Avenue.
No, at all. Not in that portion of it.
Hold on. Let me wind this back here. God damn it. Hold on. No. Wind this back. As you see, there's a truck coming. I wasn't ready when I saw the video. This nigga lost for real. Boom! Undefeated. Heavyweight champion of the world.
That bridge has its own Facebook page and Twitter account.
Check it out. Independence Avenue Bridge. Oh, shit.
Hey, dog, I don't know why they do it. They ain't got, what's that, Waze or why the little driving app? All truckers should have that app.
Waze.
Let them know, do not come down this road, my nigga.
No. There's a former coworker I have that she used to work at the school that's right around the corner from there.
Uh-huh.
And so every time the bridge's account, you know what I'm saying, posts something about another car, another can getting opened up. We kind of passed that shit back and forth, and so I sent her this one. I said, "Oh man, you've been liking the little pictures of the aftermath. You're gonna love this because that shit was the live action."
Live action, dog. I wasn't
she was
ready.
Like, that motherfucker was just undeterred. I'm going underneath this bridge. Didn't slow down anything.
Hey, dog, is the
to what the fuck's going on?
Hey, dog, is that bridge built of vibranium? It might be.
Because everybody hit that bitch.
Hey, speaking of getting hit, if you get hit in the parking lot, here's what you do.
Bro, these niggas hit me in the parking lot, bro. We about to be paid. Play that, bro. Play that. You already know the vibes. Bro, what the You lying. No. Y'all hit me. Y'all hit What is he doing in the front seats? Oh, my.
You hit them, bro.
Not you again. No, bro, they hit me, bro. Look, he crying because he know he did it. Are you serious? Bro, these niggas hit me.
The law offices of Reuben.
They stupid.
Call them if you find yourselves in such a predicament. Hey, that baby, I wasn't ready for the baby in the front seat, nigga. I almost lost it.
That's in Brooklyn.
Now, what took me out is how this nigga was at the end talking to him.
Standing.
And all of a sudden he was hit and his shoe was off.
His shoe was like the shoe that was off was like where he was standing at originally. That's what fucked me up too. And I think old boy in the first car in the back seat, he was in the baby seat. And the baby was in the front seat. Nigga, it's so much. It was
funny as
as y'all can see, we definitely into the fuckery of the show. Hey, so do y'all watch these like slapping events?
Oh shit.
Slap offs?
Yeah, I seen one in
I see him every now and again.
Yeah.
Okay. So understand this. These men, and there are women that do it too, but I think it's mostly men on this next video. Yeah, dog, you can't slap me like this and I not fight you. Like, we gonna have to fight, nigga, because there are some people where you can see the sweat coming off their body.
Hey man, you gotta have a trained neck for this though. You just smack like
You got what's that word? You gotta have a sturdy constitution. Was it that the word? You gotta. Let's go live to the scene, Chuck.
This nigga here the all day.
I'm not doing this.
Hey, but I got a question. So the second nigga was the most vicious one.
Yes.
I know you haven't done it in a while. Nigga, is that a block or a charge?
That's a no call, dog. We gonna call no call.
Yeah, that's a no call.
Ball.
Yeah, we're gonna take that shit.
Well, my question is, like the second little white dude with the tattoos on his face.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, dog. Yeah. What is the weight class requirement? Because it's obvious that nigga was fighting way above his weight class, bro.
That is a block. He got the nigga's way. That is a block.
Hold on. Oh shit. Yeah. I lost y'all. Oh, there we go. Oh shit. Hold on. Okay, that's. Oh, I fucked up the order. We'll talk about that later though. Yeah. What? Oh shit. Turn this volume up too. I brought this to the group. I thought it was cute. Spider-Verse. 2 different black Spider-Men. What would happen?
Nah, wait, so you're saying in this universe, Spider-Man, you're black? White? Hold on, so let me get this straight. Do you still know an Iron Man? You mean the Tungsten Gentleman? What about Doctor Strange? You're talking about Mr. Weird? Do you have an Aunt May? We got Mima June, the Green Goblin, I got the Turquoise Troll. Are you still talking about Mary Jane? Her name's Happy though. You know Captain America? You mean Lieutenant Germany? The Winter Soldier? The Summer Marine? Black Panther? We got the White Puma. What the hell is not no Spider-Man? Not now. So you're telling me you ain't got the Guardians of the Galaxy? Nah, we got the Supervisors of the Solar System. What about Ant-Man? Termite Buddy. Thanos? Kratos. Do you even have the Avengers? We got the Retaliators. Oh, no, I had enough. Why Spike Lee? Why? His name is Stanley.
His name is. Why Spike Lee? Why? His name is Stanley.
Stanley.
I don't know why.
We have the Retaliators.
Hey, dog, the Retaliators and the Supervisors of the Solar System,
He said,
nigga.
why Spike Lee?
Hey, the Supervisors of the Solar System. I was at work howling, nigga. Oh shit! You know what? I did this last on purpose because I knew we have a friend here that
Yeah.
Boom, doom, doom, doom.
Hold on. Let me rewind this.
Boom, boom, boom.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, 10, you ready?
No.
I feel like this might be a blocker charge.
I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready on Tuesday night when I found out.
Hey. It's your old friend here, KC Stork. He ain't dead, y'all, but he gone. Saints head coach Peyton stepping away from football. He said, fuck the Saints. He said, I can't win. I got a fucking 6'8", 290-pound quarterback that can't complete a pass. Jameis, crab legs. Winston ain't got no legs. How the fuck?
Because he tore his ACL.
How the fuck am I supposed to win a Super Bowl, nigga? I got a defense that can't defend. You know what? I'm gonna take a year off and come back and be a Cowboy. Anyway, yeah. How you feeling, 10?
I feel, confident. I feel confident.
Confident about what?
Confident, right? Yeah.
I feel real confident about it.
I feel
In successive years, you've lost the 2 most important people in the franchise history.
Dose.
Yeah.
Maybe he just feels confident that the coach is actually really leaving, because I think that's the only thing to be confident about.
That's pretty much
Oh,
it,
he done.
you know?
He done.
Yeah, done. And when they said done, I was like, done. I'm like, oh, well, yeah, my new team will be the Chiefs.
No.
I'll be jumping on that bandwagon pretty soon.
Ain't no more room. Ain't no more room, nigga. We didn't already kick the niggas off who were actually Chiefs fans who said that they wasn't gonna make it. We didn't already kick them niggas off. You can't come.
I never. One thing. That's the one thing I have never said. I never said the Chiefs wasn't gonna make it. I just wasn't rooting for them.
Hey, speaking of
what's the difference?
Chiefs.
Go ahead.
Chiefs and blocker charge. 13 seconds without a blocker charge. All right.
Oh, that's all kinds of. I don't know. I guess that was a charge.
Nah, nigga, that was a full-blown block. They was in the way.
I will say though.
Hey, when they made that touchdown, all I saw was okay. Bills gonna win the game or whatever, because they all celebrating hoo and ha and everything, and then they shifted over there to Mahomes and everything, and I'm like, Mahomes is like peeking that clock saying, "Watch this."
Kels in them. Hey, all I know about yes, Sean Payton did some things, but all I know is about y'all as far as recent history is, y'all were the victims of the most egregious non-call that led to so much bullshit of just niggas be able to review calls that referees still were not going to overturn.
No.
Yeah, that pass.
That pass interference no call.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. That's pretty bad. But I mean, hey, best of luck to Sean. I mean, he did give that city something to root for and cheer for, especially with all the bullshit that y'all had to go through outside of football. So
yeah, and we had a Super Bowl out of it. So
yeah. I mean, great coach. Great coach. I know people, debating why this, why that, and that's the joke that Joe said in the pregame. They said 16 years, but it's only 15 because that nigga had to sit down for one.
Yeah, he had to sit out for one.
and Kevin James is playing him in the movie, so
yeah,
he's got that going for him.
I saw that. I was like,
"What you talking about? Hold on, what?"
Okay. Yeah, there's a movie coming out with Kevin James.
It's already out. It's on Netflix now.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So they're basically taking some liberties. That year he took off, I think he did coach like a little league or middle school football team or some shit.
Oh yeah.
So they're taking some liberties of that, and they made a movie out of it. Zeb.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah. About his life. Okay.
No word.
Shit. That's funny.
I don't know.
New to me.
I don't know if it's gonna be good, but I like old
Sounds
boy.
Horrible.
Yeah, I like old boy, so I
like Kevin James.
Yeah, I might watch in the background while I do other shit and I pay attention to it.
So they made the mall cop the Saints coach.
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. You said it perfectly. Yes. Yes.
The King of Queens.
King of Queens. Yes.
The King of Queens.
Yes. Yes. Anyway. I thought. So you gonna be okay, Tim? Oh, damn! I forgot about this nigga. Damn, he should have been moved up. I don't want to close out on this, but fuck it, he's here. Arkansas man charged with murder for allegedly punching girlfriend's 1-year-old in the chest and lacerating baby's heart.
Kill him.
Nigga, you took the air out of my fucking balloon, bro. What are you doing?
Man.
Hey.
Damn.
Crush that motherfucker's genitals, man.
My bad.
Like that.
My bad. Hold on. Hopefully in jail they be doing.
Damn, did you play Lonely Man?
No, he need to be dead.
Nah, they need that nigga to scar. They need to put that nigga in prison and get that nigga a scarlet letter that tells exactly what the fuck he did. Put his ass in gym pop and see what happened.
I didn't even know the Amish got down like that. My bad. Right. Unless you go to the show notes, that joke will be lost on you.
Call him the Amish.
I didn't know.
Damn.
My bad. Yeah. Jared Lee Ball, you need to get your ass kicked, bro.
How about they just put that motherfucker behind a horse and let that motherfucker kick him in his chest?
Or they could just put him. They could just put him behind my car when I back out of my driveway in the morning, and I would do the state some justice and go on about my business and go to work like that never happened.
Yeah, save Arkansas some money.
Yep, Arkansas. Ooh, leading, trying to get into the race early, but anyway, fuck him. All right, man. Tab's been tabulated. Anything to add?
No, I'm good.
Congratulations, Texas, for your victory for 2021.
Congratulations. You motherfucker.
Represent.
Hey, and then congratulations to Houston for being, the murder capital of the world.
Holy shit.
And for having the cutest county judge in the state.
Oh, shit. Wow. I didn't even see this.
Everybody's gonna be looking her up after the show. I know they are.
Do it.
Lena Santos, I think. Is that her name? Let's see.
He's on TV every day.
No, I'm sorry. Lena Hidalgo. Hidalgo. Lena Hidalgo.
Oh my God. Wow.
All these murders, she's on TV every day, brother.
Bruh, they be listening. I brought up a boy that got rolled up in that mat, and there he is right there. Sheriff finds no file. Wow. Let's get out of here. Oh my God. I hate this planet. Thanos, where are you at? All right. So no one else has anything to say. We've done our part. There's fuckery.
Oh.
Huh? Someone said,
no, go ahead.
What are you saying?
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Fuck for right now. Fuck Florida. They in the lead. Fuck you, Texas. Everybody except for Ruben and his family.
There you go.
And AC.
And AC.
And Lady Lavender's family. Lady Lavender's family. Yeah. All the people that we know and like, except for y'all, fuck Texas. Fuck Florida. There we go. Nothing else to say. Everybody good. We here. Time to get out this motherfucker. Ruben. 10 meters. Zeb the Soldier. Slim AC. Lady Lavender. Half of the Brothers of Doom. Joe Jeff. I'm the KC Stork. Brothers Breaking Bread. Triple B.
Never, ever.
Miss a moment to break bread with your brothers. We out.
Break bread with your brothers whenever possible.
Too much sweet potato pie and macaroni and cheese this Christmas?
Somebody wash these pans in hot water. They don't fit anymore.
Diet and exercise can do only so much. Thank goodness AtlantaLiposuction.com to get rid of the rest. Love handles, muffin top, or just tired of calling yourself big boned? AtlantaLiposuction.com can help. Get back your sexy and the confidence that goes with it. Procedures start at just $199 per month. AtlantaLiposuction.com. Schedule your consultation. AtlantaLiposuction.com.